Lee Hoyong, a 29-year-old office worker, one day learns that there are 15 days until the apocalypse happens after taking the mysterious medicine he got for saving a goblin stuck in a bear trap. As it turns out, it allows him to level up more easily and provides him with a strategy guide. Everyone in the world is forced into groups to conquer the mysterious end of World Tower, and Hoyong has to find a way to work with his teammates so that everyone can make it to the top alive. But will he be able to overcome the tower's many twists and keep everyone alive at the same time? Our hero starts his journey early in the morning with an intensive workout plan. By 7 a.m. he goes on a 10-kilometer run, then by noon he practices 500 head strikes with a bamboo sword. By 5 p.m. he does monstrous levels of workouts at the gym, then goes back home and prepares to do it all again the next day. For the sake of this back-breaking routine that he has been undergoing for 2 weeks, he even quit his job. Some people think that he has gone crazy, and maybe it would have been better for him to have been crazy, because what's coming is much worse. The door to the end of the world is opening soon, and after all his crazy preparation, there are only 5 seconds left before it opens up. Before that, let's head back to the beginning. 15 days ago, before his madness set in, everyone in Korea received a strange critical disaster alert on their phones. It reported that monsters have started appearing all over the country, but gave no further instructions other than advising citizens around the area to evacuate immediately. No one believed the strange reports at first, and some even thought they were some kind of prank. To prove the validity of the reports, a live streamer decided to go into a monster-infested area to capture live footage of the area. Even with a giant orc appearing live on camera, viewers didn't believe that it was real. In fact, they thought it was a bodybuilder or some guy in a costume. That's until the monster started to move towards the live streamer. The viewers tried to warn him, and streams of messages begging the guy to look behind him filled the now panicked chat. But it was already too late for the streamer. The broadcast ended with a terrifying shriek so loud that our protagonist had to pull his earbuds out of his ears. This is Hoyong Lee, a 29-year-old office worker, and the main character of our story, and that video was his very first taste of just how the world was about to change forever. On his way back from work one day, he ran into an older monster trapped in a bear trap that's been conveniently left on the street. The goblin-like creature looked towards Hoyong for help, but our MC knew better. Even though it was trying to act cute, there's no way Hoyong would willingly help a monster. That is, until it shows a picture of its family. At that point, Hoyong would have been the monster for abandoning it. With no other choice, our MC took a moment to remove the trap holding down the creature, and in exchange for his kindness, he received an item called the Silver Goblin's Pill. Along with receiving the strange item, a hologram appeared over it that seemed to belong to some kind of system. From the message in the stat window, the pill is going to give him some kind of strange new trait, but it's not clear on what that trait is. There's no way he would eat something that suspicious, right? He headed home, and on the news, there's a report on a large building that looks like a tower appearing in the middle of the city from nowhere. The US Army was sent into the tower, but they lost contact not long after. With the appearance of monsters and mysterious towers all over the world, it was likely that the apocalypse had started. As he pondered on just what is going on in the world, an explosion went off right outside his apartment. On the streets right beside his house, another one of these mysterious towers appeared out of nowhere. Hoyong took one last look at the pill in his hand. With all the things happening, it's not like his chances of survival were very high anyways. That might have been the only time he would have been able to do something crazy like swallowing a pill given to him by a strange monster. As soon as he took the pill, his body glowed with a bright blue light, and he received more notifications from the system window. The pill had granted him the Sage's status window, which would provide a guide with the highest rate of survival for his current situation. The guide appeared in the form of a book, and as soon as he opened it, it transformed into another status window that showed him a terrifying message. There were 15 days left till the door to the end of days would open. He had to prepare for the end of days by taking on strength exercises, cardio exercises, and learning kendo. And that was the start of his craziness. He followed the recommendation of the guide and gave up on everything else for 15 days just to focus on exercising. But now, the door of the end has opened, and this is definitely not what he expected. He has been teleported to an unknown region without warning, and the only thing he has to work with is a blunt sword that spawned behind him. Now that he's here, and the end of days has begun, the game has officially started. Right now, he's in the tutorial area where he will learn the basics. The system performs an aptitude test on him, and based on the analysis of the data, he's been given the class of combat swordsman. That comes with a lot of instructions and guides that are a bit overwhelming at first. But the gist of it is that he has to complete one of 2 objectives in this survival forest. First is that he can survive in the forest for 60 minutes, or he can find the exit and escape. If this place is called the tutorial, then it should give them a little bit time to prepare before the game starts. The Sage's status window provides more guides for him to get the highest chance of survival. It advises him to use all 60 minutes of the tutorial to kill as many monsters as possible. Escaping without gaining experience will hinder his growth going forward. The Sage status must have asked him to exercise because it knew that this situation would occur. All he has to do is continue hunting monsters and taking his time to gain experience. And just as he resolves to do that, a monster appears from the bush. It's a level 1 one-horned raccoon, and it looks really cute at first. But then it bares its teeth and shows its claws, proving that it's not a monster to be looked down on. The raccoon leaps towards Hoyoung, taking the initiative to launch the first attack, but Hoyoung is prepared and uses a skill called Basic Swordsmanship Level 1 to quickly cut the monster down. It dies in just a single strike, meaning that it must be pretty weak. But that's expected since it's just a tutorial monster. Each slash from Basic Swordsmanship uses 2 magic points, and right now he only has a max of 10 points. That means he can only use Basic Swordsmanship 5 times in total. He continues to hunt monsters through the forest, preserving as many points as he can, until finally he reaches level 2, which recovers his HP and MP. On top of that, he will also obtain points every time he levels up, which he can use to increase his stats. But then the system screen suddenly glitches, and his level is adjusted back to 1. This is because of a debuff called Weight of Knowledge. To balance the overwhelming advantage he gets from the Sage status guide, he will level up significantly slower than other players. It seems like a ridiculous handicap, but despite having his level reverted, he still keeps the points from the level up. That means this isn't a handicap, it's actually an overpowered bug. Hoyoung continues his quest through the forest, taking down monsters along the way. Just like before, anytime he levels up, his levels are revoked, and he drops down to level 1 again, but retains the points. Thanks to that, he starts to become incredibly strong in the tutorial, but every time he levels up, he needs more XP to achieve another level up. But it's still easier to raise his stats this way than it would have been the normal way. Now that the forest seems a bit more quiet, he decides to take a moment and level up a few of his stats. He has 4 choices: strength, agility, stamina, and sensitivity. Strength and agility would be the best choices for a combat swordsman, since strength will allow for stronger attacks, and agility will increase his speed and reflexes. But the stat he needs most right now is sensitivity, which will allow him to have more MP at a time. The raccoons continue to fall as he fights through the forest, and even though this is just the tutorial, the monsters are still pretty weak. He was able to defeat them easily even with the default stats. He has been fighting for a long time now, and the raccoons have started becoming scarce. Thanks to his heightened sensitivity skill though, he's able to find them much easier than before. But his skill also picks up something dangerous approaching him from somewhere nearby. The system menu opens up with a horrifying message. Because he managed to defeat all the monsters in the area, a hidden quest has been activated. A monster spawns behind him, and this one is a level 2 one-horned raccoon alpha. This raccoon is much larger and stronger than the rest, and just its presence alone has an intimidating aura. The raccoon jumps towards Hoyoung, who just barely manages to dodge, causing the monster to smash into a tree. It's fast and it moves like a rhino. There's no doubt that this is definitely the boss of the area. Hoyoung tries to calm down, but that's easier said than done. This thing is definitely different from the other raccoons in the area, but that doesn't mean it's impossible to defeat. He waits until the beast prepares another strike, then dodges it, before using basic swordsmanship to quickly take it down. This was a lot easier than it would have been otherwise, since his true level is level 7. With that, the tutorial is complete, and it's time to move on to the next area. A portal opens up, and Hoyoung is teleported to a large red room filled with other confused players. A speaker on the ceiling of the room booms with a voice that welcomes everyone who managed to complete the tutorial. This place is the lobby of the tower, and the group of people in the area are currently in the C2567 region. From what Hoyoung can see, there are 14 men and 11 women. All these people must have been sent here like him after finishing the tutorial. Unlike him though, everyone is panicking and struggling to understand the situation. It makes sense though, since if the Sage window hadn't warned him beforehand, he would be panicking like them too. But since he's aware of his situation more than the rest, he's confident that he can make it out alive. As the group tries to calm down, a little mascot character appears and informs them that they are in the Tower of the End. The rabbit introduces itself as Kumkum, and from its status, it's level 55 despite its small size. It's the lower floor manager, and the one they will be answering to going forward. The people are too confused to understand what the rabbit is saying, but Saiyan steps forward and asks what everyone else is thinking. Is this really the end of the world? The bunny confirms their suspicions and lets them in on some more vital information. All 22 people in the room will be participating in a game with their lives at stake. All the humans on Earth are currently in the tower, and they will have to work together for each mission on each floor in order to climb the tower. Hoyoung then asks if they will be able to return to their normal lives after they make it to the top of the tower. Kumkum doesn't know the answer to that, or at least it pretends that it doesn't. But he tells them that there is no need to search for the point of climbing the tower. For now, the only thing they should know is that those who do not climb will all die, and quite a lot of people have already died in the tutorial. Hoyoung's mind flashes to some people from his past, and he starts to get scared that they might not have made it through the tutorial either. Kumkum interrupts their panicked thoughts and proposes a new challenge to the players. He wants someone to come up and try to kill him. He needs to die in order to get home, and there will be a special reward for whoever manages to pull it off. Despite how easy Kumkum looks to take out, this has to be some kind of trap. There's no way any of these newbie players can win against a level 55. Ho-young decides that he'll just sit back and watch what happens for now. That's until the guide opens up and advises him to help Kum get home. Since the guide is telling him to help the rabbit get home, that must mean that it should be a good idea to attack Kum. It's never hurt to listen to the guide up until now, so maybe he should go ahead and try. But is it really worth it to do something that will put too much attention on him? As he struggles to figure out his decision, another adventurer steps up to the challenge. Ho-young was too late, but at least now he'll get to see how someone else handles the challenge. The adventurer steps up and swings his blade while Kum stands and waits for his attack to land. But just before the sword can hit the rabbit, a massive fist slams into the player's face, blowing him into pieces and sending blood everywhere. The once tiny Kum has now grown into a Hulk-like creature, and he managed to kill a player with a single hit. The room immediately devolves into chaos as people start to run around and some others break down while screaming. Ho-young is left rooted to the spot in shock, wondering what would have happened if he had volunteered. Kum returns to his original size and tells everyone that it was just a mistake. All the while, the guide still advises our MC to help Kum get home. Ho-young wonders if the guide lied to him while the manager still looks for more volunteers. But why would the guide lie to him after everything he's been through? It's supposed to keep him alive by giving him the best possible options in every scenario, right? As he continues to wonder what he should do, the Sage's Eye gets triggered. The Sage's Eye gives him the ability to look at the status window of other players and monsters. This is another ability besides the guide, and it appeared so he can get a direct look at Kum's stats. Now that he has seen it for himself, Ho-young smiles and understands what he needs to do. He volunteers to send Kum home while everyone is still running around in a panic now that he knows that the guide wasn't lying. Kum warns him that he's level 1, which should make him cautious, but his level isn't important when he's doing a good deed. Then our MC sets up to take a swing at the rabbit, but someone tries to stop him. They all just watched someone die after all, and he should be more careful. The rest of the crowd tries to stop him as well, but Ho-young already has a plan. If things go the way he's thinking, then they will all see something exciting. Just like before, as Ho-young prepares to swing his blade, the rabbit goes from small and cute to massive and terrifying, and he immediately sends a giant fist straight towards Ho-young's face. There was something strange about what Kum said. Ho-young originally counted 24 players in the room, but Kum said there were 25. It could have just been a simple mistake, but it's more likely a tactic used by Kum to put fear in them. Fear that a horrific level 55 monster could kill them at any time, even by accident. The reason Kum said the wrong number is because there were only 24 players here to begin with. As the fist rams into Ho-young's face, he makes no attempt to dodge it. Instead, the fist passes through his face completely, allowing Ho-young to deliver the final slash, killing Kum as intended. The person that was killed earlier disappears as soon as Kum is defeated. He was just a human hologram made by Kum. The Sage's Eye revealed that the Kum they were facing was not the manager's true form. It was a hologram that disappears when damage is inflicted. As the rabbit falls to the ground, he wishes luck to those who have courage, and leaves behind a stat point. As people start to realize what happened, someone directly asks Ho-young how he knew that Kum was a hologram. He can't tell them about his Sage status window, but he can at least tell them about the other clues he saw. The main thing was that he saw blood pass through Che Yseol after that guy was blown to pieces. Despite that, however, her face and clothes were left clean, even though she was in close proximity. That's why he thought that this was all just a show to scare them. As he prepares to use the stat point on himself, someone comes up to him and tells him that it would be a waste for him to have the point since he just got lucky with that kill. This ogreish man is a level 4 player named Kim Se-young, and his arrogance is clear from the way he talks down to our MC. The reason for his arrogance is the fact that Ho-young is still level 1 when they have already completed the tutorial, which means that he's either weak or he couldn't kill anything, so he just ran away. According to Se-young's logic, that means that our MC will be dying off quickly, so there's no need for him to have the stat point. Ho-young doesn't hesitate to consume the stat point right in front of Se-young's face, and he's prepared to fight for it if it comes down to that. From Ho-young's experience, he knows that the wisest thing he can do is avoid arrogant people like Se-young, but he can't keep that kind of lifestyle up forever. He has to be able to stand up for himself if his level is going to continue getting him looked down on. Their squabble is interrupted as a voice from the speaker announces that gold will be given out to the players that survived for so long. Gold can be used in the shop, and additional gold will be given in accordance to the number of monsters that were hunted in the tutorial. Then the speaker announces that the person with the highest starting gold in the area has 7,400 gold. Most of the other players only got a maximum of 1,500 gold, but the person with the most gold is our MC Lee Ho-young. Of course, he doesn't plan to reveal it since that one guy was already jealous because of a mere stat point. The shop opens up, and in it, there are 3 things that gold can be used for. The first are items and weapons, the second is to level up his skills, and the third is increasing his stats. Since he has so much gold to spare, the first thing Ho-young does is increase all his stats to the highest level. That still leaves him with 4,600 gold to spare. He also levels up his basic swordsmanship skill, which costs an extra 1,500 gold. Finally, he buys a new outfit since he can't just keep wearing his gym uniform around. As he's looking through his inventory, the girl, Chase Yuseol from earlier, comes up to him to ask for advice. It's odd that she would be asking for help from a level 1 player, but aside from his level, she can tell that he is very brave from the way he faced off against Kumkum. He decides to test her by asking how much gold he has, even though he can see it, and she tells him the truth. Along with her gold, she's also a healer with a high stat in sensitivity. For now, he needs to hide the fact that he has a cheat key, and give her some honest advice instead. He asks if she likes exercising, and from her response he tells her that her stamina stat is most likely not very good. He only knows that though because he's directly looking at her stat window. Since she's lacking stamina, she needs to invest in that, since low stamina means that she won't even be able to use items for long despite spending gold on them. As they are talking, the first floor mission starts, and the manager orders them to create 3-man parties that will go into the next mission together. Players without parties will be put into random parties. Hoyoung knew there'd be a group mission eventually, but they are giving it out way earlier than he expected. Kim Jun-sung, one of the level 4 players, suggests that they should all share their classes since they can already see each other's levels. They all reveal their classes to each other, and people start to create parties using that information. Yisil comes up to form a party with Hoyoung, which will make her his first party member. He has no reason to refuse her when she's a healer, but everyone else didn't seem as enthusiastic to party with him. Even though he had a healer on his side, the fact that he was level 1 threw a lot of them off from joining his party. Since the level 4 players were so relaxed, everyone successfully managed to form parties with each other. Once time is up for them to form parties, the only person left without a party is randomly placed into an incomplete party, and with that, the first floor mission starts. Unfortunately, the person placed in Hoyoung's incomplete party is Sejong. Somehow, even though he's level 4, he's somehow less popular than Hoyoung, who everyone thinks is level 1. From his aggressive behavior, it's a wonder if they will even be able to cooperate with him to make it through this mission. Since it's come to this point, the problem isn't whether it's possible or not. Hoyoung has to make it possible no matter what in order to survive the tower. With the mission started, the objective is immediately shown to them. They are to annihilate a kobold tribe within a time limit of 12 hours. Sejong immediately takes the vanguard and offers to wipe out the kobold tribe for them. Hoyoung reminds him that this is supposed to be a team mission, and that makes him mad. After all, he was so graciously willing to carry him despite his low level, yet Hoyoung is complaining. RMC decides not to press too much and start a fight, so he allows the ogre to go ahead and do what he wants. They continue walking through the dense forest while Yiseol watches them argue silently. Even she is starting to wonder if this party will really be alright in the end. For now, they need to focus on completing this mission without any trouble. As they continue to walk through the forest, Hoyoung notices that there are a lot of bugs in the mountains for some reason. He also notices that a lot of the fruits have been eaten, except one particular type for some reason. Before he can think too much about it, Yiseol calls out for him. She's worried about the kobold monster being way too strong, and there's a good chance that it's stronger than the one-horned raccoon from the tutorial. However, since this is just the first floor, they should be able to handle it, regardless of its strength. That doesn't mean that they should let down their guard though. Eventually, they encounter their first kobold, and it's a level 5 monster that's way more intimidating than they thought it'd be. The monster is definitely way stronger than the raccoon, and Hoyoung feels like they need to check their surroundings first and make sure that there are no more kobolds around. Sejong on the other hand isn't as cautious, and he steps out to fight the kobold directly. According to him, it's because Hoyoung is so cowardly that he is still level 1. Without any restraint, the large man leaps out from their hiding place and starts his attack on the monster, punching it right in the face with all his might. The attack lands cleanly on the monster's face, but the kobold barely flinches. Instead, it just looks enraged after being attacked so blatantly. The two of them go all out against each other while Hoyoung and Yiseol watch from a safe distance. Sejong was way too stubborn, and now he has head into danger so brazenly. But it does look like he's putting in the work. Yiseol steps out of the bushes to help her comrade by healing him. Thankfully for them, Hoyoung doesn't sense any more kobolds in the area. Sejong has a strength level of 24, and it looks like he definitely brings his worth to fights. With Yiseol's help, he might even be able to take him down all alone. But the damage being dealt is so low compared to his strength. There must be some other way to bring down the monster. The guide appears and provides some more information about the kobolds. They are passive monsters that will not attack unless they are provoked. That means that Sejong has stirred up a hornet's nest for no reason. Hoyoung will need to do a bit more research into the situation to figure out how to beat this monster. As he continues looking through the guide, he finds something that could potentially bridge the strength gap between them and the monsters. Meanwhile, Sejong continues to beat down the kobold using his stone fist skill. The monster manages to dodge the deadly attack, causing the ogre to punch down a tree with the powerful hit. The tree falls into the forest and ends up landing on another kobold minding its business. This one is level 6, and it looks even angrier than the first one that he was fighting. Now it's a 2-on-1 fight with Yiseol acting as the healer, and it looks like Sejong is in big trouble now. He looks towards the hiding spot where Hoyoung was, wondering why the level 1 player hasn't come out to help, but to his surprise, Hoyoung is gone. He barely has any time to think about the fact that his teammate ran away as the kobold raises its hand to deliver a massive blow to Sejong before he can dodge. Yiseol jumps in at the last second to try and protect her teammate, and she manages to cut into the monster with her sword, but she trips and falls immediately, landing flat on her face. The monster rushes towards her for a final attack, but fails to notice a fruit thrown in the air behind it. Hoyoung jumps out and cuts the fruit in mid-air, using its juice, as well as his basic swordsmanship skill to cut down the monster. The juice seems to have a negative effect on the monster, and it immediately dissolves and explodes once it makes contact with the monster's skin. Both Yiseol and Sejong are shocked that Hoyoung managed to do something like that out of nowhere, and he also managed to take down the level 6 kobold by himself. This was Hoyoung's plan from the beginning. He noticed that the bugs ate all the fruit, but they didn't touch any of the purple ones, so he thought that something was off. Then when the guide informed him that the kobolds are vulnerable to poison, and he can gather and use poison from the mountains, he realized that the poisonous apples were their key to finishing this mission. Our MC helps Yiseol get up and checks on her while Sejong stews in rage in the background. From his perspective, it looks like Hoyoung had hid in the background and waited until Sejong did the heavy lifting. Then when the time was right, Hoyoung jumped in from the bushes and stole the final hit from the monster. The ogre continues yapping and spewing insults towards Hoyoung, but our MC is more confused and annoyed than intimidated. It looks like he's unable to read the room, which means that Sejong is going to have an even harder time going forward. They eventually reach the kobold village by the time the sun begins to set, and they head in to annihilate it like they were ordered to. Hoyoung and Yiseol have an easy time taking out the monsters that try to attack them, and it almost looks like they are having fun doing it, but Sejong is having a very tough time taking on the monsters by himself. No matter how many punches he throws or how hard he fights, he can barely take down one monster. Meanwhile, the other two casually eliminate multiple kobolds without any issues. Sejong is distracted for a moment and wonders how exactly those two are killing off the monsters so easily. One of the kobolds takes the opportunity to hit, bringing him down to the ground where the others quickly pile up on him. With no way to protect himself, all he can do is protect his head as the monsters stomp on him. All of a sudden, the attacks stop, and the kobolds freeze in place. Then, like the rest of their village, the two of them get their heads sliced off as the poison from Hoyoung's sword takes effect, and he kills them both easily. Sejong looks up from the ground and sees Hoyoung holding out his hand to help the big guy up. Our MC took over the carrying since their vanguard couldn't do anything himself. Sejong is so moved by Hoyoung that he cries out in joy and even calls our MC his big bro. With their quest done, the three of them return to the main lobby, but Sejong isn't as happy as the other two. Because of how things played out, he called Hoyoung, who is now just a newbie level 2, with respect. Despite the fact that he and Yiseol are level 8 and level 7 respectively, it's almost as if Hoyoung is stronger than them. Because of how he acted towards Hoyoung, he's too embarrassed to go on. The only person he wanted to serve was his boss, and if Sejong's actions get out, then he won't be able to live it down. But as a man, Kim Sejong cannot go back on his word to serve Hoyoung. That aside, it looks like they are the first ones to finish the quest. Nobody else has arrived in the lobby yet, meaning that they cleared it faster than others because they managed to find the kobold's weakness. Yiseol doesn't think they were lucky though, since the only reason they survived was because of Hoyoung. She never would have thought to use poison. Although without her support and healing, it would have been a lot harder for them to make it through. Eventually, other portals start to open up, and several parties slowly start to return from their quests. Kim Junsong and Seo Junho's parties are the first to come back after them. They must have made it back so quickly because they also found the kobold's weakness during their own missions. Another party comes back, but they don't look as well off as the rest, and they are missing one member as well. The third person that was with them was unfortunately taken out by a kobold. Eventually all the parties come back, and the manager announces that all the successful parties have returned. Of the 24 players that went on the first mission, 8 players have failed to return, and only 6 parties have returned alive. Hoyoung expected that it'd be hard for everyone to make it back alive, but it's still shocking that 8 have died already. Now it's a question of how many more will die before they make it to the top of the tower. Now that the mission is over, the parties that made it back alive whole, and the party that clears the first level first, will all receive 1,000 gold each. Thanks to this, Hoyoung's party got 2,000 gold thanks to both bonuses. It's definitely lacking compared to the tutorial gold, but gold is like an insurance for his future survival. For now, he needs to save up as much as he can. People start to ask which party made it back first, and Hoyoung can't hide it this time since the party that returned second already knows. He raises his hand to reveal himself, but Sejong beats him to it and confidently announces that he was the first to return. The rest are surprised by the fact that they returned first, and it seems like Sejong has forgotten about the fact that he was beaten up by the kobolds. That lessens the attention on him though, so Hoyoung isn't complaining too much. The rest of the people, however, are a lot more skeptical about him though. Since he is just level 2, they are jealous of the fact that he got first place and think that he must have been carried by his team. The whispers start to surround him, and he can hear all of them. Yiseol tries to argue in his defense, but Hoyoung stops her. It's not like they are going to listen to what she says anyways, so it's best not to argue too much about it. Instead, Hoyoung is just going to have to show them what he can do. Kim Jun-sung, who is now level 8, tries to quiet down the noisy area in hopes that everyone will calm down. For now, they need to focus on their own survival above everything else. Since he is one of the highest level players in the region, his words have some weight to them. Seo Junho, who is also level 8, agrees with him, and believes that now they need to keep pushing on for the sake of the people who passed away. Their words move the crowd, and they all start to cheer together. As they shout words of encouragement towards each other, the torches that were once lit in the area all die out at once. Then they reignite with a menacing red flame, plunging the area with an ominous red glow. According to the system, the survival rate of the first level of this region is below average. Because of that, a penalty mission will be put in place. The penalty mission is a death mission that one candidate nominated by the rest must face alone. The player with the most votes will carry out the death mission, and they all have 5 minutes to decide who that is. If someone does not decide on a candidate, then they will automatically vote themselves. It was at this moment that people realized that to be voted here means certain death. As the timer starts to count down, people begin to panic and wonder who they are going to choose. Yiseol tries to calm everyone down and brings up the idea that if everyone votes for themselves, then no one will have to do the death mission. But that could also mean that everyone will have to do it instead. The time continues to count down as they argue amongst each other. And as time goes on, they all start to grow in panic. That's until someone notices that a vote has been placed on Lee Hoyoung by Seo Junho. Junho didn't know that the vote wouldn't be anonymous, but the damage has been done. They need to choose, and Hoyoung expected it somewhat. But that doesn't mean that he isn't surprised. After all, he doesn't want to die. It's still not too late though, and if they all vote for themselves, then Hoyoung won't have to go. Hoyoung doesn't agree though, and they don't know if it will really work. Besides, trust has already been broken, so there's no guarantee that everyone will go along with the plan. As time ticked away, more votes began to increase over his head one by one, and the biggest reason for this is because he is low level. They have lost all notion of a society where the strong should protect the weak. Yiseol continues to argue with them on the cruelty of sending Hoyoung to his certain death. Masks also began to fall, and people started to show their true selves as they all selfishly sent him to his death. As the time ticks to the end, the last person to cast his vote is Kim Seong, bringing the total number of votes to 10 against him. The portal to the death mission opens up, and Hoyoung steps up to it, ready to face his fate. It's at this moment that people start to reconsider their decisions, now that the consequences are right in front of their faces. Seong, on the other hand, laughs at the fact that all his problems will be solved if Hoyoung dies. Now that he has been set up as the sacrificial lamb, he moves towards the portal as people look away in guilt and relief. This would have been a terrible fate for anyone to go through, but he's not just anyone. According to the guide, it is recommended that he participate in the death mission since he has a high chance of clearing it, and on top of that, a satisfying reward awaits him if he can successfully finish it. This isn't a horrible nightmare, it's actually a delightful treat. As Hoyoung enters the death mission area, the lights in the region return to their normal glowing blue. Kim Jun-sung comes over to comfort Yiseol as she grieves over Hoyoung being sent to his death. It's regretful that someone who was their companion has been sent somewhere to never return. Seong doesn't share that sentiment though, since as far as he's concerned, Hoyoung got what he deserved. He tells them that his level is proof that all he did was try to benefit from Seong carrying their group. Yiseol cuts into his arrogant lying. She tells him that Hoyoung was the one who got them through that mission, but Seong dismisses it as nothing but pure luck. He still thinks that Hoyoung took the final low after Seong had brought all their health low. But Yiseol reminds him that Hoyoung saved him from almost dying, and that finally makes the ogre stop and think for a second if Hoyoung has a skill that allows him to change the level he shows. If that's the case, then there's a possibility that he might make it back alive. Jun-sung doesn't know the full story, but he hopes that Hoyoung is as good as Yiseol makes him out to be. If that's the case, then he will at least have a slight chance of making it back alive. Yiseol chooses to believe in him, since Hoyoung said it himself that he will make them see his power with their own eyes. Jun-sung returns a gentle smile and assures her that he will. Meanwhile, in the death mission dungeon, Hoyoung returns to the kobold camp that he and Yiseol destroyed. There are no kobolds from before, and the place has a much creepier aura to it than the last time he made it here. But that aside, he trusts the guide's words that he has a high chance of clearing the mission and obtaining a good reward. In fact, he was planning on voting for himself if things didn't work out, although he's still upset that Seong decided to make his voting of Hoyoung so obvious. The Kobold tribe's hunting group returns, which kicks off the start of his death mission. His mission is to kill the Kobold chieftain and the hunting group that are enraged by the death of their tribesmen. The Kobold chieftain is the boss monster of the dungeon, and it's a level 12 monster. Just like the other kobolds though, it's weak to poison. With that information, Hoyoung crushes an apple that he got from the previous dungeon and sprays the juice on his sword while preparing for the fight. A kobold boss monster would normally be an impossible opponent, and if it were anyone else, they would have accepted their fate. But things will be different since it's Hoyoung here. The first group of monsters approach him, and he's easily able to take them out with his level 2 basic swordsmanship skill. Eventually, all the kobolds are taken out, and now it's just him and the chieftain left. Now it's time to see how different a boss monster of a death mission is from normal monsters. Hoyoung takes the initiative and rushes in to give the first blow. The chieftain manages to minimize the impact by pulling back to weaken the hit. It looks like this monster has some serious skills of its own. Surprisingly, even though this monster is clearly strong, it dashes off instead of fighting Hoyoung. Our MC gives chase and continues slashing at it, bringing its HP down dramatically. From the looks of it, this is more like a bonus stage that anyone can clear. That's good for Hoyoung though, all things considered. Our MC raises his hand and brings it down to deliver the finishing blow to the monster, but this time, instead of cutting through, the blade can't even scratch the skin. The kobold has also stopped running away, and now it stands still, staring up at the sky as if it's waiting for something. Hoyoung looks up too and notices that the sky has opened up into a deadly blood-red moon. It looks like this is what the kobold was buying time for, and now that the blood moon has given it strength, it turns around and returns a slash, gashing Hoyoung's shoulder. Back in the main lobby, Seong volunteers himself as the new leader of their group and offers to carry the rest of the team through the remaining floors of the tower. No one is listening to him though, and Yeseol still sits on the ground praying for Hoyoung to make it back safely, while Junsong stands and thinks about his next course of action. Seong mocks Yeseol for praying for someone who is obviously already dead. Yeseol finally snaps and barks at Seong to have some sort of conscience. After all his proud and arrogant talk, what would he do if Hoyoung were to return safely? They continue to argue while Seong defends his actions until a portal opens up behind them, stopping their argument. Hoyoung confidently walks out of the portal much to the bewilderment and joy of the rest of the people in the region. Despite the odds, and the giant gash in his chest that's already being healed, Hoyoung returned from the death mission alive. Before he came back, he still had his final fight with the kobold chieftain to think about. The guide had already warned him that the boss monster would become much stronger when its eyes turn red. Just that single attack was enough to reduce Hoyoung's health by more than 2/3. Luckily for him though, the poison from earlier is still in effect, and the kobold is still losing health. He just needs to land one good hit and the boss monster is done for, but the problem is how exactly is he going to do that? The kobold boss rushes at him with its sword pointed forward, and Hoyoung is just barely able to dodge out of the way as the attack blows a hole through a tree. That action gives Hoyoung an idea, and he realizes that he's been going about this fight the wrong way. He may not be able to cut the monster anymore, but he should still be able to pierce it. This entire time he has been trying to slash at the monster, but it now has uncuttable skin, so it's time to try something different. The monster rushes at him for another round, and Hoyoung decides to use its momentum against it. He also runs towards it to add even more weight. Then as the two collide, Hoyoung dodges the deadly attack and focuses all his strength into one point, successfully managing to stab through the kobold chieftain's shoulder with the poison-coated sword. And with that, stabbing has now been added as one of his skills with basic swordsmanship. Thanks to that, he was able to clear the death mission and return to the lobby safely. Yeseol is filled with joy and runs towards him to hug him for making it back safely. But before she can get to him, someone smacks her out of the way, sending her flying into a wall. She looks up, towards them, confused as Seong instead is the one hugging Hoyoung and congratulating him on coming back. But from the look on his face, he doesn't seem very happy to be doing that. Even Hoyoung is surprised and disgusted that Seong is doing this all of a sudden. He continues to hug and praise Hoyoung for coming back safely while everyone else is too stunned to speak up. Hoyoung has to stop himself from beating the heck out of Seong for even trying a stunt like this. Now that he's back, the others slowly gather around him and ask if he really cleared the death mission. They are really glad to see that he's alright, but if he did clear the death mission, then he should have gotten a lot of exp, but his level hasn't changed at all. With that, people start to doubt him again, and they begin to wonder if the so-called death mission is the same as the rabbit mod, and it was all just a trick to make them scared. Hoyoung angrily holds his tongue and tries not to say anything. He should have been used to this since this is what he experienced when he was in school. The world wants the weak to stay weak, and these people are no different. Back in school, when he would get perfect marks on his midterms, people would doubt his success, thinking he cheated since he was an orphan. They start to think that he stayed hidden somewhere and bided his time before coming out, just like they assumed he did in the tutorial. They start to doubt him because his level is still low, and even believe that he just spent his time hiding in a pit somewhere and waiting for the level to be over. He knew of these kinds of people already from his past, but that doesn't make it any less easy to handle. Before he can decide what he needs to do, someone comes to his rescue. It's Yeseol who's still healing herself from being thrown aside by Seong. She asks them all why they are still doubting him when he has already proved himself by surviving the death mission. They don't even know anything about him, and they are letting their prejudice guide them. Seong also steps forward in anger and scolds all of them for ruining the mood after Hoyoung managed to return from the impossible mission. Despite his attempts to clear the air, he somehow sounds crazier than all of them. But thanks to their actions, Hoyoung feels a bit reassured that things might become better. Anyways, if he wants to be able to survive in the tower, he will have to show them something convincing. He calls their attention and shows off what he received from defeating the dungeon boss. It's a rare item called the Indomitable Sword with a high attack power. The item is so strong that it can basically be considered a cheat key. The other items that people have don't even have status windows, which means that this item really is a cut above the rest. On top of that, he also kept a poison apple on him despite not needing it anymore. Just like Yseol said, Hoyoung really is extraordinary. That great item is a reward that is way more valuable to their team than some XP. Hoyoung stops him there as soon as he mentions him being part of the team. After all, they can't have forgotten that not too long ago they all sent him to his death. That makes the entire area quiet down, and no one has anything left to say to him. Seo Junho is the first to speak, since he was the first person to nominate Hoyoung when things started getting scary. What they did isn't justified at all, and at the end of the day, it was their selfish thinking that put Hoyoung in such a dangerous position. They all know that voting for him when he was the lowest level is the same as sending him off to his certain death, but they did it anyway. For that, Seo Junho bows his head as low as he can and formally apologizes to Hoyoung for their actions. He is truly glad that our MC somehow managed to make it back alive. The second person to speak is a lot less apologetic. Seo Yoonjin justifies their actions of sending Hoyoung to die because someone had to go anyway. And despite the fact that he was meant to die, he came back with a rare item, so everything worked out in the end anyways. Hunyo can't believe that she can be so heartless and not even feel the slightest bit of guilt for their actions, but she doubles down even more and reminds Junho that he was the first person to vote for him before anyone else. Hoyoung puts a stop to the argument before it can get too rowdy. The reason he brought it up in the first place wasn't to reprimand them, but to stop things like this from happening again. They should have caught on during the death mission voting, but the reason the tower gives them these kinds of quests is to divide their team. It's provoking them to promote distrust among them and cause conflicts. The fact that he managed to return alive from the death mission is an opportunity for them to prove that they can defy the tower's intentions. The next step is figuring out a plan for the future, and the first thing they have to think about is how to keep the most people alive while climbing the tower. If they keep climbing higher and higher, they will be able to reach the end someday, and eventually, they will be able to get back to their normal lives. His words seem to promote hope in the rest of them, and they start to believe that they can actually get things done somehow. And to do that, everyone has to join hands and work together. People start to see how trivial it is to judge someone by their level, and they even admire Hoyoung's generosity. It's unfortunate that the next mission directly goes against all of that though. Kumkum arrives and informs them that their next mission is going to be a survival game. This next mission is the second floor, and it will be among the 16 players left in the region. Their game this time is a battle royale, but since it's a lower level, they will only get a mild taste of what's to come later on. He starts by explaining the rules. In this level 2 mission, there will be 16 players and 16 doppelgangers. That means there will be 32 people in total. The conditions to clear the mission is to kill all the doppelgangers. It sounds simple, but the doppelgangers have all the same stats and memories as the original, so it'll be near impossible to tell them apart. The final rule is that there's no reward for a player who kills a doppelganger, but if a player kills another player, then they will obtain stat points and gold as their reward. In other words, this mission is an opportunity for people to get stronger. It's a horrible opportunity though, since Kumkum is basically telling them to kill each other. There's one more rule though, and this one is the most serious. For every 30 minutes that there is no kill, everyone will immediately be summoned back to the lobby to face a huge disaster. With a snap of his fingers, Kumkum summons something terrifying into the lobby. A purple portal opens up, and a giant hand comes out into the lobby. This massive monster is so strong that its level is completely unknown, and it's so terrifying that most of the people in the lobby are rooted to the spot. It's clear from its massive form that it is impossible for any of them to fight. The massive hand slams into the floor, and Hoyoung is barely able to get the people around him out of the way. This massive beast is literally a disaster, and there's no way they will be able to defeat it. They just barely passed the first floor, and there's no way that any of them will be able to take on such a massive beast. Everyone has fallen into panic, and some can barely even move as they shiver in fear and beg for help. The monster prepares for another massive attack and brings its fist down towards one of the players. Hoyoung runs in and manages to carry them away from the impact zone, but he can't keep doing this forever. The second floor's mission hasn't even started yet, and people are already on the verge of death. Kumkum, on the other hand, lays on the ground and pretends to be scared. Maybe this is just another show like last time, to make them all take this next mission seriously. That might mean that the giant monster isn't actually trying to harm them, it's just here to scare them. However, the explosions and people being flung around like toys quickly prove that theory wrong. This is very real, and they are all in danger. The quick among them regain their composure and try to attack the monster, but nothing happens no matter how many attacks they try on it. This beast isn't for show, and it's really trying to kill them. Yseol has been doing her best to heal the injured, but she's speedily running out of mana. No one is dead so far, but if this keeps going, that won't be the case for much longer. Another massive fist comes down once again, and this time it's heading straight towards Hoyoung. There's barely any time to dodge, and there are too many people in the blast zone for them to just run away from it. He has been trying to conceal his true power this whole time, but right now isn't the time to be concerned about what others think. If he doesn't do something to stop this thing, then everyone will die. He prepares to try and attack the hand as it comes down, and all his cards are counting on the synergy between the indomitable sword and his stab skill. For a split second, due to his desperation, his basic swordsmanship levels up to level 8 as he thrusts his sword with all his strength towards the giant hand. And surprisingly to everyone including Hoyoung, the stab deals massive damage to the monster, obliterating its hand into nothing. For a moment, no one can believe what just happened, then eventually, they all cheer in joy and chant Hoyoung's name in praise. Hoyoung, on the other hand, is surprised that the sword is that strong. It's definitely different from anything he has experienced so far, but it far surpassed his expectations. But he doesn't have much time to celebrate as a system message pops up and tells him that he will be exhausted for 3 minutes because he used strength beyond his limits. Eventually, he can barely stand anymore and collapses on the floor in exhaustion. After 3 minutes, his exhaustion state is lifted and he jumps awake. Everyone gathers around him as soon as they notice he's conscious again, but it looks like he's alright after all. Juno can't hold back his tears at just how strong Hoyoung really is, and he even believes that Hoyoung's fainting was just a ceremony for effects. Hoyoung ignores him and instead asks what exactly happened after he passed out. The monster was sent back since this timed round was just meant to give them a taste of the real thing. Kum didn't expect it to go this way though, since everyone is still being friendly despite the fact that most of them almost just died. To speed the chaos up, he reminds them that a kill must happen every 30 minutes. That means that the people standing around right now might be the ones to kill each other. That puts a little bit of fear back in them, and with his mission accomplished, Kum escapes through a portal and disappears. At this point, the tower isn't even hiding its intentions of having them kill each other. Now that Kum is gone, the next step is figuring out how exactly they are going to deal with all of this. If they can't find the doppelgangers in time, that might mean that they will have to kill each other. Someone suggests putting a mark on each other, but that won't work since they doppelgangers also share their memories. After a bit of thinking, Hoyoung finally comes up with an idea. He calls everyone together and reveals that he wants only him to be the one to do the killing. The rest of them shouldn't do anything, and all they have to do is gather at the highest place on the second floor. If anyone does it other than him, then that person will be considered a doppelganger, and they can work together to defeat it. An Sechung, a former Special Forces soldier and survival specialist, is surprised that Hoyoung would come up with that kind of plan. Seo Yoonjin is the first to speak and asks why they should just obediently follow his plan. Hoyoung reminds them of what Kum said before he left. There's no reward for killing a doppelganger, but killing a player gives stat points and gold. Their instructions are to fight the doppelgangers, but the tower clearly wants them to fight each other. Seo Yoonjin still tries to argue, but Junsung raises his hand to agree with Hoyoung's plan. If they can reduce the amount of damage done to them as much as possible, he will follow that plan. But for Hoyoung to ask them to leave the role of killing to him, that means that he must have a way of differentiating a doppelganger from a player. The second floor mission starts, and they are teleported into another large forest, with each player spawning a little bit away from each other. Currently, there are 16 players and 16 doppelgangers, and the goal is to take out all the doppelgangers and leave the players alive. Sejong walks up the mountainous forest just like Hoyoung instructed him to, but despite that, he still thinks that this plan is way too reckless. While walking, he notices someone coming up to him, and hides behind a tree, but he's such a big guy that hiding there is pretty much pointless. The person walking towards him is Hoyoung, and as soon as he recognizes the voice, he comes out from behind the tree to greet him. As soon as he comes within touching distance of Hoyoung, our MC slashes him in half with his blade without a second thought. As soon as Hoyoung arrived in the area, the first thing he did was upgrade his sensitivity stat as high as possible. That's because the guide advised him that the first players to reach a certain stat level in sensitivity will receive the skill called Impeccable Senses. This skill will assist him in being able to identify doppelgangers. Hoyoung actually got a little scared after saying that he was confident in differentiating who was a doppelganger, but the guide arrived at the perfect time to give him the information he would need. He had to level up his sensitivity to level 50 to receive the skill, and even though he burned through a lot of gold to get to this point, it's well worth it. His 5 senses are now incredibly developed, and he will be able to obtain detailed information about a person as long as they are within a certain radius of him. As soon as he was done leveling up his sensitivity, his advanced hearing picked up the voice of Kim Seong nearby, and despite the fact that he's over 500 meters away, Hoyoung could hear him clearly. But on top of being able to hear him, he could also sense a horrible stench in the air. That stench was coming from Sejong, and once Hoyoung got a good look at him, his impeccable senses were enough to tell him that the person ahead of him was actually a doppelganger. That's why he took the first opportunity he could find to kill him as fast as possible. It acted like the real thing up until the moment it died, and as unsettling as it is, this confirms that he does have the ability to differentiate doppelgangers. Now all he can do is hope that the rest are able to follow his instructions. Thanks to Junsung agreeing with his plan, everyone else decided to follow along, but there's no telling what would actually happen. Suddenly, a notification pops up informing him that a player has died. Hoyoung freezes in surprise for a moment and wonders if a player did that or a doppelganger. There's no way for him to figure out what really happened, so the best he can do is get to the highest point as fast as he can and kill any doppelgangers he sees on the way. He rushes up a tree to get a higher vantage point of the area, While he was running, he killed another doppelganger, but a player was also killed in the meantime. From his high ground, he notices a doppelganger in the distance, and it seems like it just freshly killed a player. Ho-young rushes over to him and manages to cut him down before he can react. Ho-young originally thought that his doppelganger was the killer, but it was different than what he had expected. Unfortunately, he was too late to save Lee Byung-chul. But there's nothing he can do about that though. But looking more closely at the body, he can see that there's something strange about it. The Go Young-woo doppelganger used a sword, but the killing Wang on Lee Byung-chul wasn't inflicted by a sword but instead, an arrow. He looks behind him just in time to notice Jun-sung aiming at him with his bow. Ho-young is quick enough to dodge and hide, but he can tell that this Jun-sung is a player and not a doppelganger. However, there's another arrow stuck in Jun-sung's shoulder, which probably means that he was attacked by his own doppelganger. Ho-young steps out from his hiding spot and walks towards Jun-sung, who still has his bow drawn. The other player is still suspicious of Ho-young and tells him not to come any closer. Other players obviously don't have any way of telling doppelgangers apart from players, so it's better for him that they maintain a safe distance. Ho-young tells him that the one he just killed is a doppelganger, so that should be enough to tell who he is. Jun-sung takes a moment to think before finally lowering his bow and relaxing. Before he can give any more warnings about his doppelganger, something strikes him from behind, knocking him to the ground. Ho-young rushes over and supports Jun-sung as they both walk through the forest towards the highest point. Jun-sung laments on the fact that he let his doppelganger escape and managed to kill other players. Ho-young tries to comfort him since they are all victims of the tower. The best they can do now is focus on escaping the tower alive. Ho-young notices two other people come out from the forest towards him. It's Yi-seol and Junho, and they were both worried since they also received notifications that other players died. Yi-seol notices that Jun-sung is hurt and offers to heal him, but Ho-young steps in front of his teammate protectively. These aren't their friends, they're doppelgangers. As soon as our MC says that, their friendly masks drop, and the two of them rush at him with their swords. As he and Junho clash swords, the doppelganger mockingly asks him if he is still upset about what happened with the death mission. As the two of them fight, Jun-sung offers to fight the other doppelganger as the Yi-seol double rushes towards him. But now that he has a bit of time to think, Ho-young wonders why the doppelgangers are appearing in front of him so daringly. One of them has the memories of Yi-seol, so they should know just how strong he is. Suddenly, he notices someone rushing at him from behind. He turns and dodges just in time to avoid a stab from Yi-seol to his back. Then he jumps away in time to avoid Junho's attack over his head. Right as he lands, an arrow comes from the side, narrowly missing him and scratching his cheek instead. That's when he turns and notices Jun-sung was the one who fired the arrow, hoping to take him out swiftly. Now it's clear that this was never an equal fight in the first place, and Ho-young's enemy is the three of them. Previously, when they first met, Jun-sung watched Ho-young cut down the doppelganger in the forest. Once he saw that, he took one of his own arrows and stabbed himself with it. That was his way of casting his line to attract prey. He knows tactics like these because his hobby before he came to the tower was human fishing. This entire time, he wanted to kill Ho-young on the first opportunity. Now that the cat's out of the bag and they are not facing each other as enemies, he asks Ho-young what type of emotions he's feeling. Maybe he's feeling betrayal or anger at the sudden turn of events. But instead of lashing out or yelling, Ho-young instead calmly starts laughing. He has been wondering when Jun-sung would show his true colors, but it looks like the fisherman is even crazier than anticipated. The way Ho-young talks makes it seem like he knew that Jun-sung would backstab him from the start. That's because Ho-young can see the status window of other people, and his stats have increased by a lot due to his murderous rampage. His new power shocks even the doppelgangers who freeze, knowing that he has such a broken ability. Ho-young just gets more and more interesting the more time that goes by. And from that admission, it seems like he has received some kind of favor from the tower. Ho-young isn't interested in meaningless small talk. He wants to know why Jun-sung would do something so evil. Was it for gold or stats? Why exactly is he going around killing others? Jun-sung replies that he doesn't have any reason to kill people. As far as he's concerned, this new world where he gets rewarded for killing people is a new place. Ho-young had wondered if there was some kind of situation that made him do these things, but it looks like Jun-sung is just a crazy murderer. He had a mask on this entire time and held himself back while waiting for a moment like this to strike and show off his true nature as a psychopath. The other two doppelgangers rush at him while Jun-sung provides ranged support from behind. He dodges a slashing attack from Junho and sends the doppelganger flying with a sharp kick to the back, then uses his sword to cut down an incoming arrow from Jun-seong. However, surprisingly, there's a second arrow behind that one, which he has to twist his body in midair to dodge. The arrow blows a hole in a tree behind him as our MC lands on his feet, preparing for another attack. It's clear that Jun-sung hasn't shown all his cards yet, and things are only going to get worse. He has the best close combatant and healer in the area on his side, and he has a ranged attack stronger than the both of them. This combination has no openings that Ho-young can exploit, and it's clear that he prepared quite a bit for this encounter with him. Jun-sung thought our MC would go down much easier than this, but Ho-young is pretty tough, but he's not against that. In fact, Jun-sung is happy about that, because it means that he can take his time and watch him struggle painfully until he dies. With that, Junsung prepares 3 more arrows and fires them towards our MC, while the 2 doppelgangers rush at him from behind. In that split second, Hoyoung activates his impeccable senses and scans the area. This is an impeccably well-balanced party. Chase Yiseol is a level 7 healer, and Seo Junho is a level 8 swordsman. If it had been anyone else, their stats would have overwhelmed him. But our main character has the power of God and plot armor on his side. In the face of his overwhelming strength, a good team composition means nothing. As the 2 doppelgangers charge at him, he uses his sword to cut down all the arrows Junsung fired, then immediately goes to slash at Junho, who was rushing towards him. Yiseol tries to heal her fallen partner, but before she can even finish casting her healing skill, Hoyoung rushes over and takes her down as well, taking out the 2 doppelgangers in an instant. As their bodies fade away, Hoyoung walks toward his last target, who has lost all will to fight. Junsung panics and gets down on his knees, begging Hoyoung to spare his life. He got obsessed with the rewards and allowed his greed to drive him crazy, and now he wants forgiveness, since he has personally seen how strong Hoyoung is. Once Hoyoung is close enough, Junsung takes the opportunity and grabs one of his arrows to try and stab our MC, but in a split second, Hoyoung slices him in half before he can even react, taking him out once and for all. It's clear that Hoyoung was much more than just a slightly bigger catch. And with that, Junsung dies, leaving only 13 players and 11 doppelgangers. Hoyoung takes a moment to reflect on the fact that he was forced to kill a living human being for the first time. Before he can process what happened, a notification pops up informing him that the player who was going to become a killer star has died. As such, he has obtained the chance to become the killer star in their place. If he chooses to become the tar killer, then he will receive a huge buff to his stats and tremendous benefits. A strange entity appears in front of him as the messages pop up around him. She reaches her hand out to him as the system asks if he would like to take up the challenge of becoming the killer star. If Junsung was the former killer star, then that explains why he was able to command the doppelgangers. The killer star role gives him a lot of amazing benefits like legendary rank equipment, a legendary rank skill, a rapid increase in stat points, and the killer star exclusive trait. The benefits are ridiculously good, but the job of a killer is just too much for Hoyoung. He doesn't like killing the doppelgangers, but he is able to cut through them because he knows that they aren't human. If he runs into more situations where he has to fight humans, then there's a chance that another player could be a killer star. If he accepts this opportunity, he will be able to take them on easily with the amazing benefits. However, he decides to refuse the offer for the sake of his sanity. He doesn't want to become a crazy psychopath like Junseong. Our MC continues his journey up the mountain and eventually runs into his group waiting for him. But seeing Seong again makes him realize that becoming a murderous psychopath might not be a bad idea. He puts aside his insanity for now and thanks everyone for following his proposal and climbing to the top of the mountain. The only problem is that most of the doppelgangers that survived also climbed up the mountain, leading to a large mess of lookalikes with people unsure of how they will be able to differentiate between the original and the doppelganger. Hoyoung is about to tell them the next phase of the plan, but someone comes up from behind and interrupts him. It's the person our MC has been dreading to meet this entire time. His own doppelganger. Now there are 2 Hoyoungs, and no one knows just who they should trust. The 2 main characters stare each other down, and it's time for Hoyoung to figure out how he's going to get out of this situation. With the appearance of his doppelganger, things have gotten complicated. Originally, he wanted to kill his own doppelganger before reaching the top of the mountain, but fighting Junseong prevented that from happening. Now it's time to explain the situation to the rest of them, and one of the players asks him to mention all the doppelgangers he has killed. There are a total of 8 people that have been killed as either a player or a doppelganger. If he reveals the 5 doppelgangers that he killed, then they should be able to know who the real Hoyoung is from that. All he has to do is prove that fact, and he should be able to prove that he's a player. It would have been that easy if his doppelganger didn't also have perfect knowledge of which doppelgangers were killed, and when they were killed. The doppelganger mentions the names of the real players who have died as the dead doppelgangers. Now that things have come down to this, the 2 of them will have to take desperate measures to prove that they are the real one. His doppelganger takes the initiative and tries to reason with everyone by appealing to their memories. He tells them that what the real Hoyoung is saying is true. Then since he has built good trust with Seong and Yiseol as his party from the first floor, he specially found their doppelgangers first and killed them. That shouldn't be likely, and it would put him in an advantageous situation. There's no guarantee that it's not possible though, and that only makes them more cautious to believe anything. Then he points out that if what Hoyoung is saying is correct, then that means the Junsong that made it to the top of the mountain is a doppelganger, and he killed the real Junsong. They all remember Junsong as the highest level among them, and a leader who gave them courage in tough times. It's crazy to think that someone like him could die, much less be killed by Hoyoung. The group doesn't know about Junseong's murderous side hustle, so the revelation that Junseong could have been killed by Hoyoung is enough to sway their judgment in his direction. Hoyoung's unintentional confession has put him in a bad spot that he won't easily be able to get out of. Now that things have come to this, the group is divided in who they should believe and who they shouldn't. The people who were wrongfully outed as fake are the only ones left who can try to calm the situation down before it leads to chaos and killing the wrong people. The arguments continue as Hoyong tries to figure out his next move. His doppelganger has laid all his cards on table and successfully stirred up the crowd, so now it's time for him to lay his cards as well. He reveals that he did in fact kill Jun-sung, and his doppelganger thinks that Hoyong has given up. But there's one thing the doppelganger doesn't know. The reason he killed Jun-sung is because the man they thought was a leader is actually a traitor. With that, he takes his sword and cuts down the fake Jun-sung before anyone can react, bringing the number of doppelgangers down by 1. Hoyong's doppelganger turns in shock and yells at him for just doing whatever he wants, but it's too late. His accusation of Jun-sung being a traitor has already started making the others question what's going on. Junhyo can already tell that the one who just slashed Jun-sung is the real Hoyong. And the fact of the matter is that Hoyong gathered everyone in one place to create a situation where the players have the upper hand. That's because when a doppelganger kills someone, it'll reveal who they are immediately so they can't kill anyone recklessly. However, if Hoyong can tell who is real or not, then he can quickly prove he's real by killing a doppelganger. However, even after saying all that, Hoyong just accused Jun-sung of being a traitor who killed real players. Jun-sung was a demon who wore the mask of a good person and hid his true nature. People are slowly starting to accept his words. The only person who's unable to accept what he's saying is Seo Yoonjin. She has been in Jun-sung's party since the beginning, and all she has seen from him is kindness. She can't bear the fact that Hoyong is insulting Jun-sung and she stands to try and kill Hoyong, but she's struck down by an arrow to her back. She turns around to see that the person who shot the arrow is none other than the Jun-sung she was trying to protect. It looks like the Jun-sung doppelganger had just enough energy left to move one last time. It celebrates as everyone looks at him in shock. Their expressions of grief and surprise are just what he wanted to see in his last moments. He can't enjoy it for too long though as An Se-chang smacks him on the back, taking him out before he can do any more harm. However, everything that has happened so far is proof that Hoyong is the real one, and there is no more doubt on who they need to trust. Now that they completely trust him, the players ask him to guide them and reveal who the doppelgangers are. They gather around him, ready to follow his orders, and this feels reminiscent of the time they sent him to his death. Now that things have come down to this, his doppelganger doesn't want to wait around and get killed. He takes the initiative again and attacks the real Hoyong first, but our MC has a plan. They'll kill the doppelgangers and loot their bodies for gold. Then using that, the players can raise their stats and overpower all the fakes to win the game. The plan works, and the surviving players are able to complete the mission and make it back to the lobby floor safely. Since the stats of the doppelgangers were the same as they were when they first entered the second floor, it made things a lot easier for them, and they didn't have any further casualties to deal with. However, not everyone is happy about the outcome of the mission. Se-chung mourns the fact that if not for Jun-sung, they would have made it out of the mission without losing anyone. He's probably the most disappointed since he was in the same party as Jun-sung, and he also shared just as many memories with him as Yoonjin. Hoyong is also disappointed since his goal was to clear the second floor safely without anyone dying. However, the situation in other regions is probably much worse than theirs since they don't have someone with a guide to read like him, and they would also have people who have taken the path of Killer Star. Moving forward, the fights are most likely going to get more intense, and while he's still weak, Hoyong is sure that there's a good reason why he was given the special ability to read the guide. Even though it took a while to get to this point, he now has people who put their trust in him, and he hopes to do his best to save as many people as possible. One of those people who now trust him is An Se-chang, who comes over to personally thank Hoyong. After all, it's thanks to our MC that they were able to survive the second floor at all. Seeing as he's still level 2 despite being the one who contributed the most, the rest of the group is finally able to tell that one of his abilities might be hindering his level up speed. Se-chang figuring that out means that he has amazing deduction abilities that will definitely come in handy later. An Se-chang also takes the opportunity to apologize for doubting and looking down on him because of his level. The others also apologize as well, bowing their heads to him and showing respect while Se-young and Yi-seol argue about who first discovered how amazing he is. But that's not all Se-chang wanted to request. Now that Hoyong has shown his worth, the former soldier wants our MC to be their leader going forward. Hoyong is surprised for a moment, but with a smile, he accepts their request to become the leader of their party. It's funny that Se-chang is taking the first step to make people acknowledge Hoyong since in the last mission, 5 minutes before the quest ended, they were desperately looking for his doppelganger. He was just hiding in a bush while the other doppelgangers died around him. Now that the mission has been completed, gold rewards are calculated in regards to the amount of contribution. Everyone gets small boosts in gold, rewarding them for their efforts in defeating the doppelgangers. Seong flexes in joy because he got 2,000 worth of gold, which seems to be the highest in their group. Hoyong watches them all, happy that everyone managed to get some gold because they followed his plan. However, he easily tops them all, managing to get 12,500 in gold. That's not all though. Because he obtained more than 10,000 gold, his shop's rank has also been increased. This must be how the system works, which means that if he wants to buy items that are rare and above, then he needs to increase the rank of his shop. Right now though, what he needs to buy most of all is an increase to his basic swordsmanship. When he fought that giant monster before the second quest, he unknowingly used a higher level of swordsmanship. If it was that powerful, then just 5,000 gold is a cheap price to pay for a stronger ability. Now that he's done shopping, he decides to send some help to his party members, starting with Yi Seol, who he sends 1,200 gold to. When they fought the kobolds and the doppelgangers, Yi Seol provided a lot of support on the sidelines. It would have been a lot harder for them to win if it weren't for her. The tower is a place that wants them to take the lives of others to survive, so who better to invest his care and support than in a healer who has helped them laugh while relying on each other. Yi Seol smiles, then promises that she will become stronger. Then she immediately upgrades her healing hand to level 2. Then Hoyoung sends 200 gold to Sejong, who's still making out with his own muscles. Maybe that will at least get him to stop being weird. And this is also a reward for his hard work. Since he's quite competent, he may end up being useful if Hoyoung helps him become stronger. At least it's better to not have annoying people on his bad side. However, Sejong takes his gift in a very suspicious way and promises to follow Hoyoung's wishes going forward. Our MC has to hold himself back from practicing his newly leveled up basic swordsmanship on the ogre. Not long after the completion of the second main quest, the third main quest begins, and this one is a siege war. For the first time since they got transported into the tower, Hoyoung's group is going to be meeting players from other regions. Their mission is to bring down the castle and occupy the altar in 24 hours. Each player also receives a return crystal, which is only usable on this floor. This crystal, and the mission implies that they will most likely need to kill people to clear this mission. They have to test how this thing works, and the best person for the job is the largest guy on their team. Sejong said he'd do anything that Hoyoung asked after all, so there's no need for him to refuse. He sends Sejong up the mountain to go and check out the area, although he used a little bit of force to do it. But he's not just sending Sejong to his death. The guide informed him that on the third floor, the return crystal will transport a player back to the starting location when they die. So Sejong doesn't have to be too worried about his safety while moving through enemy territory. He reaches the castle and doesn't waste any time smashing into the front doors with his fists. The gate's durability drops as he unleashes a deadly onslaught on it, eventually smashing it open. However, the gate resets in 2 minutes, so he has to get in the castle quickly. Once it resets, the doors close off behind him, sealing him inside the castle. He takes count of the area and notices 2 guards up on the castle wall, and another group of 10 players guarding the altar. Hoyoung told him that he shouldn't kill anyone while on this mission, because they will realize what the crystal is for and use it against them. Sejong doesn't want to listen to that order though, since he notices that everyone should be scared of him. He prepares to run in and destroy every single one of them, but a bullet slams right into his face, bringing him to the ground immediately. Just a single hit is enough to heavily disorient him, but just before whoever attacks him can fire again, he manages to catch a glimpse of a woman with a gun. As soon as he wakes up in the starting point, he tells Hoyoung and the others what happened. The woman had some kind of gun with magic bullets that shoot high damage weapons. Usually a gun shouldn't be a weapon that can be obtained this early in the game. If anyone should have a gun, it should be Sejong, who is a soldier. But he uses a blade as a weapon, not a gun. The only other possibility Hoyoung can think of is that this player is a killer star, which means that they will have a tough time taking them down. Hoyoung is worried about the outcome of this battle, but a gentle hand falls on his shoulder to calm him down. It's Yi Seol, and she assures him that she has his back. The rest of his group also shouts in agreement, clearly ready to take on whatever challenge they are about to face. Meanwhile, the woman relaxes in her castle, using one of her teammates as a chair while the clothes cower in fear. Back with Hoyoung, he and his group climb the mountain and reach the front of the castle walls. Just like Sejong reported, there are only 2 guards on top of the castle walls, and they are both ranged attackers. Sejong confidently walks up to the castle walls, ready for another round with the players that have already killed him once. Sejong being there might allow the enemy to figure out what the return crystals do, but they won't be certain. For now, they'll think it's only something that Sejong can do. The bowmen take aim towards Sejong, but Hoyoung is faster and uses his speed to cut down the arrows before they can hit Sejong. Then he uses the ogre's shoulder as a stepping stone and leaps up to the top of the castle, taking out the 2 guards as soon as he makes it to the top. Now that Hoyoung has gotten the first kill, they only have one chance to do this right. That's because the enemy will eventually figure out how the return crystal works due to the failed attack during their first turn. So they need to defeat them as fast as possible. The rest of them follow Hoyoung's lead and charge towards the door. Just like before, Sejong pounds on the massive door with his fists, bringing down its durability completely with 5 hits. They will have to follow him quickly though, unless the door will respawn, and they will be stuck outside. Before he can break down the door though, someone else from the other side completely destroys it in 1 hit, firing a bullet right at Sejong, who's knocked to the ground from the impact. Because the gate has been destroyed twice, its durability can no longer be restored, leaving the castle wide open. In the meantime, the guards that Hoyoung brought down at the top of the tower start laughing. He didn't kill them, most likely because he didn't want them to respawn with full health, but the guard thinks that his half-hearted mindset will get the rest of his team killed. The woman that leads their team is completely insane, and she will definitely take advantage of his unwillingness to kill. Now that Hoyoung has gotten a good look at her with his impeccable senses, It's impossible to deny. Her name is Sun Seoyeon, and just like he feared, she's a killer star with some impressively high stats and a large backlog of gold at her disposal. On top of that, she's level 13, which means that she slaughtered everyone on the top floor. As he looks through her stats, she notices him and doesn't hesitate to send a bullet his way. The shot hits him square in the shoulder before he can react, and it sends him to the ground in pain. Thankfully, he has a healing potion which he quickly takes to restore his health, but he has to be careful going forward. This woman is way more violent than he thought she would be, but thankfully, he prepared for her in advance. Before coming up to the castle, he bought an item called Kalia's leather armor, which grants him increased defense against magic. He also noticed that one bullet consumes 10 points of MP, which means that she should only be able to fire 13 more bullets. And if she uses the same shop rank as him, then she shouldn't be able to buy any mana recovering items yet. Now that he's sure of the stakes, Hoyoung jumps down to the lower floor of the castle and prepares to charge with the rest of his team. They push through, each of them using their skills to get close to the altar, but the woman doesn't let them just push through. She fires into the crowd, striking one of the players square in the chest. Before they made this mad dash to the tower, that same player asked Hoyoung how exactly they would get past the bullets and make it to the altar. Hoyoung suggested that she wouldn't be able to use magic bullets that can bring Seong to the verge of death forever. Since it's a magic bullet, it must consume MP, so all they have to do is just tank one bullet, and then heal up the damage from it. With Yi Seol on their side, they don't have to worry about staying in critical health. As the group makes it closer to the tower, Soyeon notices that things aren't going to be as easy as she thought. She pushes one of her teammates and tells the rest to go and defend. Now that things have come to this, it's an all-out fight between their teammates, and whatever happens from now on will decide how things will end. Some may die because of the magic bullets, but all they need to do is focus on getting to the altar as quickly as possible. As he gets closer to the altar, the players start to focus on him, but he's easily able to block and dodge their attacks, knocking them all out before they can get to him. He doesn't notice a magic bullet aimed straight at his face until it's too late, but Junho is there at the last second to save him, using his sword as a bat to send the bullet flying before it can strike his face. He tells Hoyoung to run while he can, but takes a bullet to the face for his efforts. Things are becoming difficult, and in the end, more and more people keep dying. At this point, she definitely has to know that they will return even after they die. But even with that, how can she possibly keep such a straight face while mercilessly killing so many people? She even smiles and mentions that this group is interesting. That's the last straw for Hoyoung, and he activates his level 3 basic swordsmanship, cutting through the crowd of people that try to stop him with incredible speed, before jumping up towards the altar, aiming his sword for Seoyeon. She's prepared and aims her pistol at him as well, both of them ready to kill each other. Then their weapons clash, sending a wave of energy shooting through the area. Now that Hoyoung has made it to the altar in one piece, his teammates don't have to hold back anymore. Things get even crazier as Hoyoung's teammates start to show their true power. Meanwhile, the two main characters stare each other down with their weapons drawn and pointed at each other. Seoyeon is more shocked that someone can be so powerful at just level 2. But Hoyoung throws the question back at her and asks her how she got to level 13 so early. The two of them continue to stare each other down as Hoyoung takes a step onto the altar. But there needs to be 3 people on the altar for them to claim it, and they will also need to remove the opposing player from the altar. That means that he has to get rid of her as fast as possible if he wants to clear this mission with his team. The start tier attack as Seoyeon makes the first shot, which Hoyeon is able to just barely dodge the bullet before thrusting his sword towards her. She raises her pistol to block the blade, but Hoyoung isn't done, and continues throwing dangerous slashes at her which she's able to continuously dodge. The next slash is deadly though, and it looks like it's going to hit, so she's forced to jump over it instead of simply dodging it, before shooting 2 more bullets at him. But from his movements and the way he's dodging her attacks, it's almost like he's predicting her moves before she even makes them. It's all thanks to Seo Junho, who's a swordsman just like him. Back before he got sucked into the tower, he was once called a genius table tennis player. In a match between pros, it's not easy to return every ball just by watching it. They have to read their opponent's postures and monitor where they are looking at. That's why pros like him have the ability to predict where the ball is coming from and return it excellently. Junho was nicknamed the genius of prediction when he played as a pro table tennis player, and those are the skills he used to save Hoyoung's life from the deadly bullet. Thanks to him, our MC has gotten a hint on how to fight against this gunslinger, and he can expertly dodge her attacks. She continues to fire at him, but he easily dodges each bullet before getting close enough to deliver the final slash to her midsection. The attack is so powerful that it chops the pillar behind her in half, but somehow she manages to barely dodge it. Just from that brief exchange of blows, Seoyeon can tell that he has higher stats than her. Meanwhile, the others have taken care of the Seoyeon's remaining teammates. Now they just need to finish this before the group comes back. Seoyeon picks up on that and quickly reasons that the function of the return crystal is revival. However, figuring that out now is useless for her, even if she has some sort of hidden skill that guarantees a hit. Hoyoung just has to take the risk of damage and make sure to end this fight at once. However, Seoyeon has more than just one trick up her sleeve. In the midst of battle, she upgrades her level 3 firing skill to level 4. There's no time to waste, and Hoyoung rushes in to deliver the final blow, but it's already too late. The gunslinger manages to get 2 shots off, tearing Hoyoung to shreds in an instant. His teammates rush towards him as he falls to the ground, dead. Despite that, though, they manage to clear the 3rd floor's mission in peace. They return to the lobby, and Hoyoung notices Seong with a sad look on his face. That's because even though he is the one who carried the round, his gold reward is way too small. Although Hoyoung got hit in the end, he still managed to use his sword to stab Seoyeon at the same time she fired, striking her right in the heart. As the 2 of them fell to the ground, Seoyeon swore that she would remember his name. After their death, Seong, Yiseol, and Secheng occupied the altar and won. However, just remembering that crazy woman gives Hoyoung some serious shivers. It will be a blessing if they never meet again. However, a portal opens up and they see the group that they faced earlier on the other side. The defeated group will now have to face punishment from the same monster that attacked Hoyoung's group before. The targets of the disaster are all the players that did not get a single kill. The group on the other side screams and begs for help from Hoyoung's group, but the portal doesn't let them through. They are forced to watch as the monster tears the other team apart with no mercy. After the carnage is done and every player is dead, only one player survived by managing to get kills. Because of that, the groups will be merged and reorganized. The only person that managed to get a kill in the enemy group is that crazy woman with the pistol. As Hoyoung has that thought, she walks through the portal, still covered in the blood of her teammates, and officially becomes a member of Hoyoung's group. This must be the reason why Hoyoung had an uneasy feeling thinking about her. There's no time to focus on her though because the next mission starts immediately. The 4th floor seems to be some kind of abandoned city, and their goal is to kill all the monsters appearing throughout the city to secure an escape portal. The escape portal will appear randomly as they hunt monsters, but only 20 portals will appear. The person who opens the portal can also not let other people use their portal. They only have 6 hours to escape. After going through the 2nd and 3rd floors where they had to fight people, they are more than happy to face off against monsters again. Also, since there are 20 portals, that means they don't have to compete against each other because there are only 13 people among them. The morale on the team is high thanks to the good mission, and Seong is ready to kill all the monsters and level up like crazy. However, since people can't let others enter their portal, that means that there should be a limit to the number of monsters that appear. If one person opens multiple portals, that means that there will be people who can't escape. The fact that there are extra portals could be a trap set up by the tower. No matter how many monsters they kill, it'll make sense to go into a portal once it opens. So they make a promise to stop hunting and jump through a portal as soon as they open a portal. Yiseol notices that Seong doesn't look happy about something. She asks him about it, but he denies making a face, saying that this is just how he looks. Hoyoung watches them all with a smile. After coming this far together, it seems that everyone understands what needs to be done for a mission. After everything they've been through, it feels like they have finally become a team. The only problem they have is the newcomer who is clearly not interested in playing nice with the rest of them. She walks off on her own and warns them not to give her orders if they don't want to die. Her rude attitude angers the rest of the team, and they briefly wonder if they should just gang up on her. 12 hours earlier, after Seoyeon officially joined their team, she immediately went right to making enemies. Seong went up to confront her, telling her that if she didn't have her special gun, then she would have been no match for them. To prove him wrong, Seoyeon decks him in the face with a massive punch, sending him flying. It's safe to say that she's plenty powerful without her weapon. Hoyoung steps up to stop her from messing around with his teammates too much. He went through all that trouble to kill a potential killer star earlier, but he never expected a real killer star to appear so soon. And she's clearly good at fighting even without her gun. She walks right up to him almost as if she wants to greet him, even though they are not in a situation to exchange greetings politely. Instead, though, she sets a target on him that causes him to back away in caution. Then the system informs him that the killer star has designated him as her main target. He has no idea what that is, but the guide gives him some detailed information. What the guide tells him is enough to make him sweat in fear as she walks away from him. Back to the present, the players are fighting monsters and trying to find portals to use and escape. Seong manages to open a portal early after only killing a few monsters. He looks around to make sure no one is watching and tries to walk away from the portal, but immediately runs into Hoyoung. Hoyoung can tell from how nervous he's acting that he opened a portal. Before he can argue or say anything, Hoyoung kicks him through the portal, sending him back to the lobby. Hoyoung knew that he would try to do something stupid, so he followed the ogre to make sure that he wouldn't pull anything weird. Now that one problem has been taken care of, it's time to take care of the next problem. The guide told him that the traits of a killer star will fully unlock when the Day of Blood arrives. On the Day of Blood, if the killer star kills their target, then they will get a very good reward. To prepare for the upcoming battle, the guide advises him to prepare as much as possible for the Day of Blood by leveling up. Hoyoung doesn't know when the Day of Blood will take place, but there's a high chance that it will be advantageous for the killer star and numerous people will definitely die. As he's walking through the deserted street, an orc runs up to attack him, but he manages to kill it easily. For now, all he can do is become as strong as possible before the day comes. Even though Hoyoung could kill all the monsters on this floor if he had enough time, he can't do that since everyone hasn't escaped yet. He also needs to be careful of Sun Seoyeon, who's killing monsters somewhere. Elsewhere, he notices a rotten stench coming from a monster. Apparently, thanks to his impeccable senses, he can perceive a rotten stench from monsters that leave behind portals. Ho-young rushes over and kills it immediately, opening a portal for himself and guaranteeing his safety. Now that he's found a portal for himself, he heads over to meet Seoyeon, who's still hunting monsters. He sticks with her and pretends like he can't find any portals for himself, claiming that he is way too unlucky to find his own portal. The truth, however, is that he's intentionally avoiding orcs that open portals, while also following her while she kills orcs. Because Sun Seoyeon needs to kill him on the Day of Blood, she has no choice but to let her kill the orcs instead, because she can't kill him right now. If he dies here without securing a portal, it'd be bad for her because she would miss out on rewards that she would have gotten otherwise. In the meantime, other players have managed to open and escape through portals, and there are only 5 remaining portals that can be found. The rest of them are escaping smoothly, so he doesn't have to worry about them, and he can focus on keeping her company. However, his antics are starting to get on her nerves, and if he doesn't get going, she might not kill him. But that doesn't mean she won't hurt him. As he continues fighting the orcs, killing them feels very refreshing. It's probably because they remind him of Seong. However, those complicated feelings don't even match up with the ones he has with Sun Seoyeon. She's worried about him because she wants to be the one to kill him later. It's strange to see her so worried since he's the one who hasn't found a portal. Since they have the time to chat, he asks her directly to tell him how many portals she has found. She has managed to open 5, which might be a lot, but it's still within the buffer. Seoyeon has 5 while he has 1, meaning that if the remaining people each open 1 portal, there will be 3 left. He checks his status window and sees that there are only 3 portals left, meaning that they might be the only ones left on the 4th floor. Since it's just the 2 of them, it should be time to split up with her and find his own way. He checks the time and there's only 10 minutes left, so he rushes off to find his own portal, leaving her to find her way back. Before he goes off though, she calls him back for a moment. Ho-young briefly wonders if she has realized what he's trying to do, and he reminds her that they have only 10 minutes left, so there's no time to chat. However, it looks like she's reluctant to say something, and he can tell that something is up. However, to his surprise, she forgot the locations of the portals she opened and needs his help finding one. It looks like the big bad killer star has a horrible sense of direction. Both Ho-young and Seoyeon make it back to the lobby, and as soon as Ho-young returns, Seong runs over to him to try and give him a hug. This time he's not having it though, and he punches the ogre away before he can get a chance to land the hug. Because of Seong's ogreish figure, Ho-young almost thought that he hadn't completed his mission yet. Even Seoyeon agrees that he looks very similar to the orc. The others gather around the 2 of them and they are relieved that Seoyeon also made it back from the mission alive. Although they were once enemies, they both are on the same team now, so they have to walk together and get along. Junyo takes the initiative and extends his hand for a handshake, but Seoyeon rejects his goodwill and walks away without a care. Seong tries to pick another fight with her, and it leads to an argument and some chaos among the group while Junho still stands still in shock that his handshake was ignored. As Ho-young watches all of this unfold, he starts to wonder if he should have just left her there after all. But even if he did, it doesn't make sense that the killer star blessed by the system would die from getting lost. At least now he can take advantage of the fact that she is now indebted to him. Although, even with that, he still needs to be wary of her, even if it's unlikely that she will do anything until the Day of Blood. However, everything should be fine for now. Now that things have calmed down somewhat, it's time for the tower to shake things up again. And who better to do that than Kum. The deadly rabbit appears in front of them once again, but this time, instead of him going into his usual rants, a bullet rips through his head immediately. The culprit is Seoyeon, and everyone stares at her in shock for daring to do such a thing. The bunny's head grows back, and he appears right beside her in an instant, before sending her flying with a massive kick to her slide, causing her to crash into a wall. It sent her flying so easily, but considering the stats that Kum has, it clearly went easy on her. That shows just how important the killer stars are to the tower. Now that the rabbit has vented out its anger, it's time to go for the next mission. Before they go to the next floor though, Kum changes the lobby's background to something more appropriate. The entire area turns into a library filled with books. Kum wants them all to pick a book each, and the book will either be a useful one that helps them survive, or a useless one that gets them killed. That all depends on their decision though, so they have to make sure to choose carefully. Seong of course is the first person to argue about letting a mere book decide his fate, but Junho rightly realizes that he can become stronger if he finds a sword technique manual. Of course, because of how influential the books are, no one can reveal the contents of their book to anyone else, and all the books will disappear once the 5th floor mission starts. With that done, Kum encourages them all to select a book that they won't regret choosing, then disappears to leave them to it. Now that they are left on their own, they all make a mad dash to try and figure out the books that they will need. Everyone starts looking in categories related to their classes, but that should be expected. It would be a waste of time to look for something else in this situation. However, the guide wants him to choose a book called the SSS Rank Returner's Monopoly of Connections in the novel section. This is the first time Ho-young doesn't trust the judgment of the guide, but he chooses the book regardless. Now that he has chosen it, he cannot reveal its contents to anyone else. The title of the book already seems useless, but the guide must have recommended it to him for a reason. He decides to read it, but is immediately disgusted by the fact that it's one of those mass-produced power fantasy kind of books. The others pick books that are relevant to their skill set, and Hoyoung feels like he is lost in comparison. He starts to wonder if he should have chosen a sword technique or a martial arts manual. However, he's not the only one who picked a weird book. Seichang works beside him to quickly build a tent. Hoyoung can only wonder what kind of book he read. There's someone else that's also pretty crazy, and he notices Seoyeon angrily pounding a nail into a rabbit doll while chanting that she will kill the rabbit next time. It looks like Kum really pissed her up earlier. Hoyoung decides to just avoid her for now and not deal with any of that. Eventually, the time to read books is up, and they are all moved to the 5th floor mission. Surprisingly, it's a classroom filled with a bunch of people that they don't recognize who seem to be their classmates. It also looks like time has stopped to allow them to get used to the environment. To better match with the area, they have all also gotten younger, and it looks like they have returned to their student days to fit the mission background. Everyone looks different, including Yiseol, who looked even more innocent when she was younger. However, there's someone that catches Hoyoung's attention. It's Sun Seoyeon, and she looks like an absolute nerd with long, messy hair and glasses. She quickly breaks her glasses and hides her face in embarrassment. But despite the hairstyle change and the glasses, she doesn't look much different though. A speaker on the wall activates, and Kum's usually mocking voice comes out from it. He tells them that the 5th floor mission is role-playing, and they have been teleported to another dimension where humans and monsters exist. So starting from now, they are all going to play the part of cadets of an academy that raises monster hunters. For the next 4 days, quests will appear from time to time, and if they fail the quest, then they will be headed for the death mission, which means that they have to give it their best shot. Although Hoyoung managed to survive the last death mission, there's no guarantee that a normal player will be able to survive it. Looking at the way things are going, he should definitely have chosen a sword technique manual instead of a useless novel. Before the mission starts, Kum gives them all the memories of the world that they live in, so they can better get used to the roleplay. The new memories mix together with the one he already had from his normal life. But more than that, from what Hoyoung can tell, the new memories match up with the content that he read in the novel he picked up from the library. Kum informs them that the first quest will start after class ends, so they should enjoy the present as much as they can. Now that the orientation is done, time resumes, and the class continues. If they really are in the novel that Hoyoung read, then that means the players that have been summoned there are just extras, and the guy sitting in front of him is the novel's protagonist, Oh Yoonam. He's a regressor who knows the future. Thanks to the information he had from his past lives, he was able to monopolize numerous connections with people and places, and thanks to that, he became the strongest person. The teacher taps his cane on the board and points towards a question, then asks anyone if they would like to try and answer the question. If they do, then he will give them store points. The question is something that normal students would never be able to answer, and originally in the novel, the question was supposed to be answered by Oh Yoonam. Just like in the novel, Oh Yoonam raises his hand to answer the question, but Hoyoung beats him to the punch and answers the question himself, which shocks Oh Yoonam and even his own teammates. Because he successfully answered the question, he also gained store points as a reward, which will make things easier for him. Now that things have come to this, he finally realizes why the guide was recommended to him by the novel. There's no need for things like a martial arts manual or a sword technique manual when he can get all the gifts the protagonist of the novel would have gotten for himself. Class ends, and the group of players walk out together into the academy campus. Seyoung takes the opportunity to ask Hoyoung how he knew the answer to that question, but Hoyoung claims that it was in the memories that were given to him, which could mean that he got a good character. That's just a lie, of course, but he can't tell them that he just happened to stumble on the novel that they got teleported into. Now all they have to do is wait for the quest to start, and according to what he saw in the novel, it should be right about now. Right on schedule, the notification pops up, informing them that the quest has begun, and their mission is to clear the dungeon that has appeared on the side of a building in the academy. The item that drops from the boss monster of the dungeon is an extremely important item that will play a huge role in the future. Originally, Oh Yoonam was supposed to get the item, but Hoyoung can't just stand by and let him get something so powerful. Right now, they need to hurry up and get to the dungeon before Oh Yoonam can get there. They reach the area right as the novel's protagonist gets there, and he is surprised that they all found their way here somehow. Oh Yoonam doesn't even get a chance to ask why they have also come here as Hoyoung dashes behind him and kills an orc in a single lash. Oh Yoonam can barely believe that the cadets in his class were so powerful, especially Hoyoung and Seoyeon, who are going around killing multiple monsters at once without any problems. If these people have always been in his class, then there's no way he would have forgotten them. At this rate, they might steal what's from right under his nose. To avoid losing in a fight of strength, he summons his spear and throws it, taking out multiple orcs at once. It's clear that Oh Yoonam is a protagonist in his own right, and his skills are just as powerful as the others. Seeing him in real life, he looks even more overpowered than Hoyoung had read in the novel. There's no way someone like that would hand over the dungeon reward so easily. For now, they have to make sure to push past and try to win in this battle of monster kills. With their current momentum, they should be able to clear the quest without any issues, but if Hoyoung wants to get the dungeon reward, then he needs to be the one to kill the most orcs to get the right to challenge the boss monster. The current Oyunum is definitely stronger than Hoyoung, however thanks to our MC's impeccable senses skill, he has a much easier time finding monsters. Seoyeon also doesn't want to lose to anyone, especially Hoyoung, and she picks up the pace as well, killing as many orcs as she can. The three of them cut through monsters like paper, and at this point, they are overwhelmingly stronger than the rest of them. Just the three of them alone are more than enough to take down all the orcs by themselves. But Ysael can tell that Hoyoung is way more desperate than usual, and it looks like he's trying much harder than usual. Junyo thinks that it's because he has a noble heart, and doesn't want the rest of them to get sent to the death mission, but they don't know that he just wants the dungeon reward. However, thanks to his determination, the rest of them also decide to pick up the pace and work harder for Hoyoung's sake. In the end, they manage to exterminate all the enemies, and the boss room finally appears. The system calculates the monsters killed, and determines that the person who has the right to challenge the boss monster is Oyunam. Despite all of Hoyoung's hard work, Oyunam still managed to get the right to challenge the boss monster before them. If Hoyoung doesn't do something quick, then he's going to lose the rights to a great reward. Since things have come down to this, he's going to have to resort to drastic measures to get what he wants. He calls out to Oyunam before he can enter the boss room, and asks for the right to challenge the boss monster. Of course, Oyunam would never do that, but Hoyoung has a trick up his sleeve. He asks Oyunam if he wants to know the secret to end the chains of his regressions. Oyunam doesn't take a quote like that lightly, and points his spear at Hoyoung. No one should know about his regression. And although Hoyoung asks him to put his spear away, Oyunam won't be peaceful until he gets an answer on how Hoyoung knows that he's a regressor. Hoyoung doesn't answer the question and once again asks Oyunam if he wants to know how to stop his regressions. To prove that he really does have knowledge of the regressions, he reminds Oyunam about events from his past, like a winter that happens when he's 32 years old. The starting point of his regressions was November when he was 17 years old. Back then, he had told a colleague about his constant regressions, and the man had even said that he was envious of it. But Oyunam is sick of it, and he wants to see the winter that should happen when he's 32 years old. Hoyoung promises that if the novel protagonist lets him challenge the boss room, then he will tell Oyunam how he can end the chains of regression. Getting out of this horrible curse has been his dream for countless millennia, so he has no choice but to accept the request. Oyunam reluctantly drops his spear, but he warns Hoyoung that if he doesn't keep to his promise, then things will get really ugly for him later. With that, Oyunam gives the right to challenge the boss room over and walks away. And with that, Hoyoung makes it into the boss room somehow, and comes face to face with a giant orc. The monster looks incredibly tough, but our MC has to stay calm. Since he's in a novel, he doesn't have any information on the level or his usual guide, but he already knows how to defeat it. The first strategy is to avoid the orc warrior's roar. When the boss monster roars, most challengers would lose their will to fight because of it. But his impeccable senses doesn't just amplify his senses, it also completely blocks off his senses from mind attacks that use sound. Thanks to that, the warrior's roar won't work on him. The second strategy is knowing where to hit to deal the most damage. Its upper body is tough as steel, but its lower body is utterly weak compared to its upper body. He has to make sure to dodge as many attacks as he can and deal as much damage to the monster's lower body as he can. He dodges a swing to his face and turns around, using his sword to slash at the orc boss's legs, bringing it to its knees. Then, with the monster down, he jumps up and lands the final blow on the orc boss's head, killing it, and causing it to drop a reward. With that, he has successfully cleared the boss room. Back in the student dorms, Hoyoung plays rock paper scissors with Seong and wins. That makes it his 11th consecutive win, and it almost looks like he's cheating, but Hoyoung clearly didn't cheat. It may look like he's just really good at rock paper scissors, but in truth, it's because of the rewards he got from the boss monster. There are only two mythical items that appear in the novel. One would be Gungnir, which is Oyunam's powerful spear, an overpowered item that will always hit the target it's aimed at. The other item is the Ring of Nika, which is a mythical grade item that greatly increases the user's luck. Although it seems like a very simple item, it's still an overpowered object that's just as good as Gungnir. This ring will become a very reliable insurance for the numerous challenges that he will face. Oyunam would have to progress without the ring, but Hoyoung will give him the information he needs to survive. After all, there's only one thing that he wants, and if Hoyoung can give it to him, then everything will be solved. A cup slams down on the table in front of him, and Seoyeon approaches him with an angry look on her face. She wants to play against him in rock, paper, scissors, and she's sure that she can win. That's because rock, paper, scissors is more than just a game of luck. It's also a game of agility, and she has high points in her agility. So to make the game even better, they also bet on gold as well. Seoyeon bets 3,000 gold, but Hoyoung raises it to 5,000. Despite how confident she is though, she ends up losing to Hoyoung. The next day, it's time for the next part of their story as cadets of the academy. It's the cliché scene that appears in these kinds of novels where they have to evaluate their strength by striking a punch machine. They are supposed to use their weapons to attack the crystal, and it will calculate their magic power and show it as specific values. The points they get here will be used when forming their dungeon groups for the practical in 2 days. Hyunho is specifically excited since he wanted to see how strong the cadets are. The first cadet hits it and gets a score of 43, which seems to be pretty solid considering the reaction of the crowd watching. From their injected memories, they remember the student as someone who is pretty strong. Junho is next, and he gets a score of 69, which makes everyone gasp in awe. Sejong goes up next, and for some inexplicable reason, his shirt is missing. He strikes the crystal with a straight punch and gets a score of 75. Seoyeon fires her pistol next, narrowly missing Sejong's face, and gets a score of 98. At this point, the students are losing their minds with just how high the scores keep going. They didn't even know it was possible to infuse mana into a gun. Hoyoung is slightly proud of just how much stronger his teammates are than the academy cadets. Finally, Oh Yoonam steps up and strikes the crystal with his spear, getting a score of 115. That's the power of a protagonist for you, and it makes sense that his score is the highest. But aside from how strong he is, if Hoyoung remembers correctly, he will soon meet an incredibly deadly fate. Later on, the players meet up in the cafeteria for lunch, and Sejong asks Hoyoung why he didn't get better results. Our MC doesn't see the point of it since it doesn't even give any rewards. When Hoyoung struck the crystal, he got a weak score of 64, and while everyone else was surprised, he did that on purpose. That's because he needs to be in the same dungeon practical group as Oh Yoonam, and getting scores that make him a group leader would be troublesome. As they're eating, they get the second quest for this mission. It's a mission to rescue Oh Yoonam within 1 hour. Oh Yoonam is strong, so it's hard to imagine a situation where he has to be rescued. Hoyoung knows exactly what's going on though, and it's the dire situation he feared for Oh Yoonam. After the protagonist regressed, he taught a few thugs within the academy a lesson. However, one of those thugs is the only son of Park Young-seok, the guild leader of the Red Moon, which is one of the top 10 guilds. Park Young-seok told his high-ranking hunters and his direct subordinates to beat Oh Yoonam up until he's half dead as a lesson for what he did. In the novel, he got rescued by someone, but that was only possible because he had the Ring of Nikkei. Without the ring, it's likely that he will be taken out by the guild member. The players all rush towards the location, but just because it's a quest that they have to complete doesn't mean it's easy. If someone as powerful as Oh Yoonam is in danger, then it must be a very dangerous situation. If they want to properly do this, then they will need to be prepared, because their opponents are hard to defeat using normal methods. No matter how strong Oh Yoonam is right now, he's still just an academy cadet, and they need to rescue him at all costs. Oh Yoonam is in a very bad situation, and he's getting humiliated by the thugs from the guild. Things aren't looking too good for him, but 3 bullets change the atmosphere of the situation immediately. It's Seoyeon, and she took the first shot before the rest even got close enough to start an attack. Sejong follows it up, charging towards the men without a second thought. Hoyoung would have liked to come up with a plan first, but now that things have come to this, there's no need to hold back. Our MC draws his sword and yells for the rest of his teammates to charge in for the fight. The 2 remaining guild members who haven't been blasted away calmly block more of Seoyeon's bullets as they wonder just who these academy cadets are. Although it looks like Seoyeon shot recklessly, thanks to her timing, she was able to create an opening by launching a surprise attack, and Oh Yoonam should have just enough space to make use of that opening. He draws his spear and uses it to attack the man who was shot by Seoyeon before he can join up with his comrades in battle. The 2 sides regroup as the 2 men return to the side of their ally who was attacked while Oh Yoonam moves closer to the players. He doesn't understand where they keep appearing from, but this isn't the time to be talking about that. For now, they need to focus on resolving this situation first and figuring out what to do. Sejong makes it to his mark and jumps up to land a hit on his target who has been getting attacked so far, wrongfully thinking that he must be their weak link, but the man activates a shield that sends the ogre flying, which shocks the rest of his teammates. It looks like the man who should be the weak link is tired of them getting in his way. Sejong is sent flying back to the group, and he's clearly in a daze from the mysterious attack. The man laughs as he takes off his glasses and makes a mad dash for the rest of the group, ready to teach them a lesson for messing with him so much. The 3 men clash with the group of cadets. In the meantime, Seoyeon provides ranged fire from behind, covering the students who are fighting opponents way above their league. Those who are injured head towards the rear for Yiseol's healing, and once they are fully healed, they rejoin the front line to fight again. With this formation, they are able to keep up the tempo on the men and fight to their heart's content. Oh Yoonam is surprised that someone with such strong healing abilities is one of the academy cadets. The opponents may be incredibly strong, but there's no way they'd give them a quest that can't be cleared. Now that they have reached this point, it's time to use the skills that they learned from the books in the library. Junho jumps in with an attack from his sword which is narrowly blocked by one of the men, while Sejong, who has just been freshly healed by Yiseol, rejoins the fight and delivers a deadly right hook to help Junho. And then there's Sechang who's building a tent for some reason. I'll be honest with you, dear viewer. Even I can't make this look cool. Moving on from that guy, the men are confused about what they are hearing from the cadets. Talks about quests and books are just being them, and they have no idea what's going on. But for them to have enough time to chat amongst themselves, that means that they are looking down on the Red Moon Guild's most elite. The two groups continue to clash, and through some crazy feats of strength, they are actually starting to push Hoyoung's group back. After overcoming the previous missions together, he thought that they had become a united team that wouldn't easily be defeated. But these guys have more experience working together, and on top of that, their synergy is on another level. Although the three of them work in a tightly knit three-man formation, if they can just defeat one of them somehow, then the rest will fall apart quickly. However, that thought is much easier said than done. Looking at these guys is like looking at an iron door that has no openings. However, Yiseol's healing and support is enough to keep them going despite the insurmountable odds. They are pretty persistent for a bunch of kids, and although they are facing off against each other, even the guildmen have to agree that they have a bright future ahead of them. Well, all but one anyway, who just can't accept the fact that a bunch of kids are this hard to beat. He launches in without warning, ready to continue the attack on the cadets, and he aims specifically for the healer who has been supporting her friends this entire time. Before he can reach her, however, Yoonam launches his spear at the attacking man, and although he tries to dodge, the spear still hits its mark, causing the man to fall to the ground and clutch at his injured chest. The other two rush to support their comrade, but it's already too late. The tight three-man formation has been broken, and now the indomitable iron wall has a hole that they should be able to exploit. Things have gotten tense, and Hoyoung can feel just how anxious they are. It looks like they are getting impatient because they have been delayed much longer than they expected. And thanks to his knowledge from the book, Hoyoung already knows why they are so anxious right now. He tries his luck and asks the men if they will be alright since the chairman should be rather furious with them by now. That causes all three of them to pause in shock. His simple question got the reaction he was hoping for, and one of the men has obviously been affected by the words. Hoyoung continues, reminding the men that the chairman of the Red Moon Guild, Park Young-sok, is a very impatient man. The rest of them have no idea how he even knows about that, and the words are apparently very true as the men stop their attack. And just like that, the unbreakable door opens up slowly. Hoyoung continues, reminding the men that there are countless people who have died because they got on Park Young-sok's nerves. The three men flinch in shock, and our three protagonists notice the weakness immediately. Now that they have been shaken, it's time for them to strike. Yoonam goes first, stabbing the arrogant man first with a spear straight to his stomach. Seoyeon follows it up with a few bullets from her pistol, sending the man flying back. Then Hoyoung goes in for the final blow, swinging his sword with all his might and cutting the man down with a single quick strike. If they want to win this, all they have to do is focus their attacks on just one of them. With their comrade taken down, things aren't looking too good for the remaining men. The students surround them and get ready to take them both down, but instead of fighting, one of the men starts laughing. He suggests that they stop for now and go their separate ways. The chairman will probably still bust their heads if they return like this without completing their objective, but there's no way they can win now. But after seeing the hunters that represent the future of Korea, they can go back with no regrets. With that, the three men teleport away and the players successfully clear the quest. Somehow, despite how dangerous the situation was, they managed to come out with a win. It was close though, since they only had 2 minutes remaining. Now that the immediate danger has been taken care of, Yoonam takes the opportunity to ask the real questions here. Did Hoyoung and his group somehow know what was going to happen today? Hoyoung doesn't answer the question and tells Yoonam that he should be thanking them first before anything. The other man reluctantly says his thanks, and despite his angry expression, he's clearly being sincere. For him, this must be the regression where he has faced the most changes in. He never went through anything like this in his previous regressions. With that, Hoyoung turns to take his leave with the rest of the players, warning Yoonam that this will be the most difficult regression that he has ever faced. Before he leaves though, Yoonam asks him if he is also a regressor. Hoyoung stops for a moment and smiles, then tells Yoonam that he is something even greater than a regressor. That's cool and all, but Hoyoung can't go walking off into the dawn when they haven't finished their conversation. Yoonam grabs him by the shoulder and reminds Hoyoung of the promise of telling him a way to escape the curse of regression. The two discuss, and Hoyoung tells him everything he needs to know. It looks plausible enough, so as a reward, he gives Hoyoung a rare item called the Armor of Thea, which increases his defense power by 25%. Even though the things he told Yoonam were true but far-fetched, he accepted it easily. Maybe being the protagonist makes you more accepting of realities that are usually hard to believe. Right now, there are more important things to worry about, and the teacher is announcing group pairings. Just as Hoyoung predicted, Yoonam is the leader of a group, and thanks to his lucky ring, he manages to get placed in the same group as well. To get the best reward for this mission, he needed to get into Yoonam's group somehow, but this isn't the time to celebrate just yet, because there's another major event coming up. He meets up with Yoonam later in the back area of the school building. The two of them already know what's going to come. The dungeon and their practical will go berserk. A dungeon berserk is a phenomenon that does happen occasionally, but it doesn't make sense for it to happen simultaneously. This same dungeon berserk has happened in every single one of Yoonam's regressions, but he could never find the cause of it. That's why he has come to Hoyoung for help in hopes that he might have some important information. If Hoyoung really is an existence greater than a regressor like he claims, then he must at least know something. Based on the novel's development, 3 groups, including Group 4, will experience a dungeon berserk. In that incident, the only group that avoided being totally wiped out is Oh Yunam's group. The details of the berserk, including the cause of it, were never mentioned in the novel, so unfortunately Hoyoung doesn't know how to stop it. Hoyoung bows his head and apologizes, admitting that even he doesn't know everything. But Oh Yunam can't accept that kind of reality. But Hoyoung really doesn't know anything. In the novel, the author never gave any hints throughout until the very end. He ended that part of the novel vaguely, so there's nothing that Hoyoung can do about it. Elsewhere, Seoyeon hears some commotion coming from behind the school building and recognizes one of the voices as Hoyoung's. She goes to see what's going on and accidentally catches the 2 boys seemingly in the middle of tearing each other's clothes off. This isn't that kind of manhwa, and Seoyeon promptly makes a quick escape from the BL fantasy happening in front of her. I would leave too, but I have to keep the story going for you, dear viewers. Later on, the group practical event is about to start, and Oh Yunam's group is led to their dungeon gate. They step through into the dungeon, and the mission is immediately given by the system. Their goal is to clear the dungeon assigned to them. Unfortunately, he couldn't talk to Seoyeon earlier because she's still traumatized by the BL incident. Not only does he have to fend off this dungeon berserk, there's also a weird misunderstanding that he is going to have to take care of later. Oh Yunam takes charge and suggests that they split up and check out the dungeon first, while using their radios to communicate. Hoyoung pairs together with one of the other players, and the 2 of them make their way through the dungeon. The groups that will be involved in the dungeon berserk are groups 4, 9, and 12. Group 4 is Oh Yunam's group, which Hoyoung is in. Group 9 has Yiseol and Seoyeon, while Group 12 has Seyong. Group 9 will probably be fine with Yiseol's ability to heal, and the killer star who has the blessing of the tower. Group 12, however, might be the problem child of the bunch. All he can do for now is wish him the best. Right now, he has more important things to think about, like the aggressive-looking pack of monsters moving towards him for a fight. Hoyoung readies his sword for a fight, but he isn't only worried about himself. He has also been paired with Go Yongwoo, who is only 17, and the youngest player that was in Hoyoung's area. Not only does the kid not seem very reliable, he's also crying for some reason despite the dangerous situation. Hoyoung manages to take out all the monsters despite the handicap, but now he has to figure out why Yongwoo is crying. It's most likely because he still hasn't let go of what happened at the beginning of their journey when they sent him off to go to the death mission by himself. Yongwoo confesses that since that incident, he hasn't had the courage to talk to Hoyoung, and he should have talked to our MC a lot earlier. For that, he's really sorry, and he continues to cry even as Hoyoung tries to calm him down. The kid is really tender-hearted, and Hoyoung decides to be more forceful in his approach. He places his hand on Yongwoo's shoulders and assures him that he shouldn't be sorry. In fact, he hopes that if that situation were to happen again, then he would make that same decision once more. The situations that they face are as real as they get, and in this tower, there's no end to the number of places where they could die anytime. He won't be able to survive with such a soft heart, so Yongwoo has to learn to think of himself first before anyone else, so he can survive. Now that he has gotten his point across, Hoyoung's expression softens, and he gives the kid a pat on the head while assuring him that he doesn't need to feel guilty. Yongwoo smiles and tells Hoyoung that he's really amazing. Not used to compliments, Hoyoung turns away with a cough and continues his journey into the dungeon. Yongwoo continues the conversation and asks Hoyoung if he was someone incredible before the end of the world happened. However, that couldn't be further from the truth. Because Hoyoung lived in an orphanage when he was young, he had to fight against discrimination and had to live desperately. Before he knew it, he was already in his late 20s living as a normal salary worker who was barely able to feed himself. The only reason he became a little special in the tower was by a simple coincidence. If it weren't for meeting that goblin, then he might not have even been able to survive until now. Yongwoo pulls him out of his deep thoughts and asks him what he's thinking about so intently. Then he thanks Hoyoung for everything he has done so far. Although he advised Yongwoo to think of his own survival first, Hoyoung has always put himself in danger to save others. Yongwoo decides that he wants to become someone like Hoyoung who can help others. That makes Hoyoung smile as he pats the kid's head again. What's important now isn't the past, or how he got to where he is now. The path that they need to walk is forwards. They eventually reach an area where Yongwoo felt a strange energy coming from. To the kid, it looks like there's something leaking from there, but Hoyoung can't detect anything with his impeccable senses. If it's something that only an adventurer can detect with their search skill, then it's definitely important. Hoyoung tells Yongwoo to step aside, then uses his level 3 basic swordsmanship to break through the strange part of the wall, opening up a hole to a labyrinth. The labyrinth never appeared in the novel before, so Hoyoung has no idea what this place could be. Even in the infinite regressions that Oh Yunam went through, there was never a single mention of a labyrinth. That means that this place most likely wasn't made by the author of the book. This place might contain clues as to why the dungeon berserk occurred. They keep walking through the labyrinth, and eventually they meet some creatures who don't sound pleased at all that they found their way in there. The creatures are fairies with stats so high that Hoyoung can't even consider fighting them. It looks like they are about to start a fight with Hoyoung, but one of them, named Kum, tells the others to stop, because he notices that they aren't characters in the novel. Then he points to Hoyoung specifically and informs them that our MC changed the story in a major way. He told Oyunum a conclusive spoiler. That makes them even angrier, and the fairies gather around Hoyoung for a chat. They are powerful and intimidating creatures. And this would be a lot of terrifying for Hoyoung if each of them weren't the size of a small plush toy. They ask questions directly, starting with just who Hoyoung is. Our MC claims that he's a reader who read about the world, and opened his eyes one day to find himself in the novel. It's not really true, but it's not a lie either. The fairies discuss among each other whether or not they should believe him, but Hoyoung asks them who they are exactly. They are fairy repairmen that fix holes in trash novels like this one. As they say that, they pose with their hammers except one whose hammer is conveniently missing. Since that's the case, Hoyoung apologizes for giving them a hard time since they must have a lot of holes to fix. The fact that he recognizes their hard work makes the fairymen cry tears of joy, since they personally know how trash this novel is. Even Hoyoung agrees since it was so hard for him to finish it when he was reading. Originally, they were planning to bury him underground, but since he recognizes their hard work, the fairies will just erase his memories and let him go. These guys really shouldn't be saying something as horrifying as that with a straight face though. He can't let them do that since if he loses his memories, then it'll be meaningless for him to have found this labyrinth after so much hard work. In desperation, he cries out the first thing he can think of, reminding them of the third floor's dungeon berserk, which should be a hole that they haven't been able to fix yet. That causes the fairies to pause, since there's no way that Hoyoung should be able to know about that. Even though the novel is trash, there are things that he has learnt from living in it. And one of those things is Oyunum's ability to create opportunities regardless of the situation he is in. Thanks to their negotiations, Hoyoung is able to convince the fairies to let them out. Yongwoo checks his surroundings and notices that Hoyoung has a spaced-out look on his face. The kid starts to wonder if our MC was tortured or something with how spaced out he is, but Hoyoung doesn't respond to any of his calls. That's because of what happened just before they left the labyrinth. He told the fairies that he might be able to give them a solution to fixing the plot hole. The men consider for a moment since this is something that they have been trying to work on for a while. If they leave it be, then it will become the biggest plot hole in the novel so far. If that happens, then their reputation as fairy mechanics will be sullied. Because of that, they have to at least hear him out first before they zap away his memories. He suggests that they combine the 3 dungeons that will go berserk into one all at the same time using a portal. If they combine the 3 dungeons, then compared to having 3 dungeons going berserk out of nowhere at the same time, one would look more natural. It does sound pretty convincing, but if the size of the dungeon grows, then the reward for clearing it must be bigger as well, and that's a consequence that they can't mess with. They are worried that if they screw up the story and Oyunum receives a bigger reward, then it would mess things up even more. So as a countermeasure, Hoyoung asks if it will work if he receives that reward. Now that he has made such an absurd request, all that's left now is for his Nikki ring to boost his luck enough for this to be possible. However, they don't agree with him and think that it will be better to just erase his memory. If an extra is able to achieve such a high achievement out of nowhere, then it would put them in a tough spot. With that, the fairy reaches his hand up to Hoyoung's face as he jumps back and screams in terror. Back in current time, Yongwoo starts slapping Hoyoung in hopes of waking him up. Since nothing else is working, Yongwoo pulls out a hammer from his backpack and prepares to bash Hoyoung's skull open in hopes of waking him up. But luckily, our MC wakes up, avoiding an unintended murder. Yongwoo is relieved that Hoyoung is back even though our MC is still traumatized by his near-death experience. The two of them continue walking through the dungeon, and Yongwoo admits that he thought Hoyoung lost his memories. In actuality, they were lucky that there was a time limit on the 5th floor's mission. Just before the fairies erased his memories, he told them that he will disappear from the book world in a day anyways, so there's no need to erase the memories of someone who will leave. Then he turns his attention to the hammer that almost became his murder weapon. He saw it on the ground after all the fairies took Hoyoung away and disappeared, so he took it with him. The hammer is a fairy mechanics hammer, and it's a unique grade item that has the ability to repair damaged items and also increases the chance of strengthening an item. It looks like Yongwoo isn't just someone who's weak and fragile. In any case, there's something that he still can't let the kid know just yet. He made a secret contract with the fairies, and as a result, a mission exclusive to him was created. It's a hidden mission that requires him to complete the novel world's plausibility by becoming #1 in the dungeon raid, by contributing as much as he can as discreetly as possible. In order for him to not become an error within the storyline, he has to attain his results discreetly and clear the whole dungeon to get a special reward. Now that he has gotten this quest, it's time for the dungeon berserk to start. Due to an unknown energy, the dungeon goes berserk, and stronger monsters start to appear everywhere. On top of that, thanks to the deal he made with the fairies, 3 dungeons combine into one, and things have gotten a lot worse. Yongwoo is confused and turns to Hoyoung for an explanation, but Hoyoung only tells him that he needs to stay focused. He gives the kid orders to head northeast and find Oyunum with his search skill. Thanks to his unique exploration skills, he should be able to avoid monsters and find the novel protagonist safely. On top of that, the kid is stronger than he looks, and if he's with Oyunum, then Hoyoung won't have to worry about him. As for Hoyoung, he has a different mission to complete, so he can't be running around looking for other people to protect him. Elsewhere, the other students are also reacting to the dungeon berserk, but none of them are as calm about it as Hoyoung was. In Yiseol and Seoyeon's group, a dangerous scorpion monster appears and suddenly starts spitting out poison. Thanks to Yiseol, though, the students are somehow managing to survive in the near-impossible situation. A monster takes a moment to attack them while they are thanking Yiseol, but luckily for them, a billet blows the monster away before its attack can make contact. Seoyeon reminds them to stay focused on the mission at hand unless they want to die. As Hoyoung runs through the dungeon, killing monsters, he hears sounds of shooting in the distance, which means that the dungeon he is in right now is definitely the dungeon that Seoyeon's group is in. Although she has the advantage against the poisonous monsters since she has a gun, they are very dangerous to the other cadets. Hoyoung increases his speed to catch up to where the sounds of fighting are coming from, but that doesn't change the fact that he's supposed to act discreetly. He can't help them openly, so his only choice is to clear their dungeon as quickly as he can before someone dies. Hoyoung managed to clear out as many monsters as he could, and followed a toxic scent to a large cave at the back of the dungeon. That means the boss of the dungeon is there for him to defeat. The giant Scorpion King comes out from the depths of the cave and roars at him as they stare each other down. Hoyoung kicks off the ground, avoiding an initial shot of poison from the scorpion. It looks like the monster has spread a lot of poison around the area before he arrived, and because of that, Hoyoung can't get close to it. Oyunum should be able to take care of things with Group 4 somehow, but the other two dungeons need Hoyoung's help to survive. He may be doing this to get to number 1 rank, but he won't allow any casualties or tragedies while he's around. Hoyoung dashes towards the scorpion, dodging its attacks along the way as it tries to kill him. Then he jumps over the monster and prepares to plunge down with his sword, but a tail swipe comes out from nowhere and smacks him away into a wall, knocking all the air out of his body. The scorpion looks pleased with itself and almost looks like it's laughing at him, but Hoyoung can't let this keep him down. He needs to finish this fast somehow if he wants to save everyone. It looks like he has no choice but to use something he would rather save for later. But this isn't the time to be saving up his cards. From an earlier subquest where he had to complete a mission given to him by one of the academy professors, he got a special item that he knew would come in handy at a time like this. It's called the Perfect Shield. This is a cheat item that allows him to perfectly block any one attack. With it, he manages to stop the scorpion's poisonous attack as he charges towards it. Then before it can prepare another one, he goes under it and uses his basic swordsmanship to slice the beast in half, killing the monster and clearing the dungeon. With that done, he heads over to the final dungeon where Seong and his group should still be fighting monsters. For a moment, Hoyoung worries if Seong is alright, but he catches himself. Worrying about that ogre is the same as saying you value him, and Hoyoung doesn't want to accept that the weirdo has creeped into his heart. Moving on from that, it's more concerning that there seems to be nothing in this dungeon. Suddenly something leaps out from under the earth, aimed straight at his face. He's able to use his sword to block the attack, and the monster leaps off his sword and comes in for another attack. This thing is called a horned mole, and although it has an unknown level and managed to surprise Hoyoung, he's able to cut it down with his sword before it can try to attack him again. However, that's not the end of it as the ground starts to shake and more moles leap out from underground towards him. Although they're small in size, they are fast and sharp, and most of the attacks manage to land on him. If Hoyoung doesn't focus, this could turn out to be dangerous for him as well. If things are this bad, Hoyoung can only hope that Seong is still alive. The ogre is alive, but the same can't be said for the students that were entrusted to him. On top of that, the monsters have left him beaten and bruised, and things aren't looking up for him right now. The ground rumbles beneath him, and he raises his fist to continue fighting, right as more moles jump out of the ground at him. As he fights them, he names himself Kim Seong, the mole killer, and the one who went around his neighborhood crushing every whack-a-mole machine. After so long of fighting, however, he doesn't have any strength left, and another mole takes the opportunity to jump out from behind, aiming directly at his back. Just before the mole can land a hit, though, someone manages to stab it with their sword. Hoyoung turns around to see Hoyoung with the dead monster still hanging from his sword. Seong wonders how our MC got here in just the nick of time, but Hoyoung is more relieved that Seong managed to stay alive somehow. The ogre starts crying and rushes to give Hoyoung a hug, and that immediately kills our MC's friendly mood. For now, it's just good that Seong managed to stay alive, but the moles got everyone else before he could do anything about it. It's a shame, but he couldn't protect everyone, and even though they were just extras in the novel, they were still living, breathing humans who he interacted with in his short time on this floor. They were like his teammates, and they still ended up in this horrible state. Now that Hoyoung is with him, Seong tries to find out what they should do next. Is it even possible to get out of this place? Before Hoyoung can reply, the ground begins to shake again. But this time, whatever is coming towards them is way more powerful than any of the other things they have faced so far. Hoyoung still has his head bowed though as he continues to mourn his classmates who have died. In that instant, the boss monster leaps out of the ground. It's a giant mole that is much more terrifying than any of the others they have fought so far. It leaps towards them with its claws, but before it can even reach the ground, Ho-young's sword slices through its neck. Since he couldn't save the cadets, the only thing he can do is kill the boss monster. With the monster dead, the dungeon closes, and the quest is officially over. The surviving students return to the academy after the events are over. On a rainy day, the school holds a memorial for the students who lost their lives during the events of the Dungeon Berserk. The academy headmaster expresses his deep regret over the incidents that took place and talks about consoling and compensating the families that lost their children. Ho-young and Oh-yoonam walk together under the rain after the ceremony ends. Our MC apologizes for not being able to save everyone, but Oh-yoonam doesn't think the apology is necessary. After all, he has regressed countless times, and he has never been able to stop the Dungeon Berserk once. Despite that though, Ho-young managed to save some of the cadets when all of them should have been killed. Thanks to this, Oh-yoonam admits that Ho-young really is an existence greater than a regressor. The two of them bond for a moment, before Oh-yoonam hands him a handkerchief and promises that he will come over looking for advice from now on. Unfortunately though, the Lee Ho-young he will meet from tomorrow onwards won't be our MC, since all the players will be going back to the tower soon. Just as Oh-yoonam looks towards reaching the winter when he's 32 and heads for the ending of the novel, Ho-young must also climb to the next floor and run towards the end of the tower. While the ending of the novel has been decided, Ho-young will be the one to decide the ending of the tower. As he walks back towards the student dorms, he hears some voices calling out to him, and he turns around to see his teammates walking together towards him. They all will be the ones to decide the end of the tower, while hoping that it will be a happy ending. And with that, they have successfully cleared the 5th floor mission, and the system returns them to the tower lobby. Despite the situation, everyone somehow managed to survive this time as well, and after spending so much time in younger bodies, everyone has returned to their normal age. Ho-young stares at his personal reward in the corner of the room with a goofy smile on his face. The system rewarded him with level 1 intermediate swordsmanship, which he wasn't even able to buy in the store window. Just a single level in basic swordsmanship made a huge difference in his power and skill. He can only wonder just how much stronger intermediate swordsmanship will be. And that's not the only thing he got either. Since he achieved the first rank in terms of contribution point in the dungeon quest, he got the hidden mission reward, which is an extra class slot. It's an item that will allow him to get a second class, as well as all its buffs. This will be just like his old life where he had to do multiple jobs to survive. But compared to all the other times he looked for jobs, he has never been as excited as he is right now. He crushes the skill orb in his hand, and the system gives him the new class. The system starts to roll through all the classes and finally lands on a new class called the Tamer class. That wasn't what Ho-young expected at all. He could have even gotten the Shadow Monarch class back there, but instead he got the Tamer class. But it might not be all bad after all. Once in his old life, there was a time when a cute cat would follow him around, clearly fond of him. It was adorable, but he abandoned the cat because he didn't have enough money to take care of it. But with the Tamer class, he should be able to take care of any animal he wants. It won't be a bad idea at all. The guide comes out as well and informs him that there's a monster on the 7th floor that is suitable to take as a pet. Other than having outstanding combat abilities, it is also very agile and has exceptional stamina, so it can also be used as a form of transportation. A monster with exceptional combat abilities that is also rideable makes him think of something like a wolf monster, which would definitely be a cool one to have. For now though, all he can do is imagine it, and wait till they reach the 7th floor so he can get his pet. This is the first time he's actually looking forward to the next floor. The 6th floor mission completely curbed that excitement though, and thinking that they could get to the 7th floor easily was a complete miscalculation for Ho-young. The 6th floor mission was an endless battle with monsters where they had to fight for an unbelievably long time to survive. Every member of the team brought out the most of their strength to fight the unending wave of monsters, and by the end of one such wave, Ho-young had to take a moment to catch his breath. Someone else seemed especially happy to get this kind of mission though, and it was Se-young. He seems almost too excited, and Ho-young asks him why he isn't tired of all the fighting by now. That's because this floor is a rare opportunity to gain this much experience. The 5th floor was just an open-world mission with no concept of leveling up, so they didn't get any experience no matter how many monsters they killed. But here, even someone cursed with slow leveling like Ho-young managed to reach even level 5. But it's meaningless to level up any further than this because he has already reached the cap of all his stats. The system says that he has reached his experience singularity point, and until he breaks through that limit through training, he won't be able to increase his stats by leveling up or with gold. It looks like he has to actually train now, and he can't just monopolize all the awesome items like he used to. However, someone else seems to have moved past that point before him. He uses his impeccable senses and can see that all of Se-young's abilities have been leveled up past his level cap. It looks like there's really no limit to a killer star's stats. Something like that is simply playing dirty, and thinking about it makes Ho-young angry. As he continues staring at her though, she notices him looking and asks him directly if he wants to fight her. Ho-young backs off and tells her to hang in there and continue fighting, and although he turns around to leave, she continues glaring sharply at him. But despite her nasty attitude, thanks to her, the situation is already mostly taken care of, and the time has finally come to finish this quest. With the 6th quest taken care of, in the next quest, he will finally be able to unite with his new pet monster. They return to the lobby, and the speakers above the area announce that the 7th floor's mission will be starting soon. The 7th floor is an area of strengthening, and when they hunt monsters on the 7th floor, there's a chance that they will also obtain strengthening crystals. The players aren't too sure what that is, but they are most likely items used for enhancing their gear, similar to things that appear in games. The announcer confirms their suspicions, and informs them that they can use gold and the strengthening crystal to strengthen their items. However, they cannot strengthen items that are no weapons or armor. During the given time, they are also allowed to travel between the lobby and the 7th floor, allowing them to hunt and strength in their own time. The given time is 72 hours, and there's no clear condition, meaning that they can even stay still and relax during this time, and still clear the mission. It looks like even the Tower of the End has a bonus floor that they can relax in. Since they have been fighting for so long, times like these are rare and precious to them. One of the players also notices that the store window has an item known that claims to be able to increase the strengthening crystal chance. Buying it will increase the item strengthening probability. With all these buffs available to them, they should try to strengthen their equipment as much as possible in preparation for the next floor. With the mission started and the players hyped up, as soon as the portal opens up, they rush in, ready to start their strengthening journey. They'll eventually come back to their senses after they have used up all their gold though. As for Hoyoung, since he has the Ring of Nikke, it basically gives him free bonuses already, but his main bonus here is something else entirely. As he heads into the portal after his teammates, he's determined to get both strengthening and a pet at the same time. As the others go around killing every monster in sight, they notice that the strengthening crystal isn't really dropping much. Sechang tells Junho that the reason the crystals aren't showing for him is because he is not desperate enough. He should search for the crystals with the same desperation of someone who's looking for a lost cartridge. That makes no sense, but it seems to be working for some people. Meanwhile, Hoyoung is still looking for his new pet. Fighting a wolf with his bare hands managed to subdue it, meaning that it's not strong enough to be what he's looking for. As he continues to search, someone shouts out in joy as they find their first strengthening crystal. It's Seong, and he claims that he has been called the god of strengthening since he was a child. At this point, Seong has 3 childhood nicknames, and it's confusing keeping up with the share number of all of them. Hoyoung approaches the ogre, and he's already being protective of his precious strengthening crystal. But Hoyoung isn't interested. Instead, he asks Seong what exactly he hopes to strengthen. The larger man fights with his bare fists and never uses any sort of equipment or armor. Hoyoung pauses for a moment and stares at the crystal in shock as he realizes that he has no use for the crystal. Meanwhile, Hoyoung drops the unconscious wolf that he pummeled to a brink of its life. It's way too small for him to ride, and way too weak to fight with, meaning that it's automatically disqualified from being his pet. There's still a lot of time though, so Hoyoung can take his time looking around for more candidates. At least that's what he'd like to say. But 3 days later, with only barely 2 hours left, he still has not found his fabled pet. So much time has passed by, and he's starting to get incredibly worried. He discovered a few pet candidates, but none of them were what he was looking for. All of them have some undesirable trait that he just couldn't ignore. The system should have just told him where to find it instead of being unnecessarily vague. He has also gotten 3 strengthening crystals so far, so it hasn't been a complete waste of time. But if he can't find his pet after coming to the 7th floor, it would have definitely been a waste. As he walks through the path, he notices a pair of animal ears peeking out from behind a bush. As soon as he spots it, the animal it belongs to leaps out of the shrub and lands in front of him. After searching for so long, it looks like the pet he has been looking for this entire time has finally appeared. Except it's so horrifyingly ugly that Hoyoung physically recoils in shock. It looks like a kangaroo monster, and although it looks the part, there's no way Hoyoung would accept an ugly kangaroo as his pet. Still, it's worth a try to at least check it out. He challenges the kangaroo to a bare-handed fight, and the monster eagerly accepts. They both rush at each other, and their fists collide, creating a small shockwave that surprises both of them. But the fight is just starting, and the kangaroo pulls back its left hand, swinging it for a heavy uppercut. Hoyoung manages to dodge, but then another right hook comes down towards his face which he's barely able to jump away from. The punch was heavy and it had a lot of power, but more importantly, it has incredible speed that comes from its springy leg muscles. The kangaroo rushes in close and lands 3 solid punches, pleased that it has the upper hand, but Hoyoung is plenty fast himself. What the monster hit was just an after image as the real Hoyoung lands on the kangaroo's shoulders and pulls its ears, confirming that it is rideable. It's not cool or cute like he wanted, but this is clearly the pet that Hoyoung has been looking for. After a brief fight, the kangaroo monster submits to its new master, and the system tells him to give it a name. Hoyoung pauses to think for a moment on a name that will be really catchy for it. Then he settles on the name Kangasu, inspired by Pengsu, which is a famous cartoon character with children in Korea. Kangasu seems to like the name, but it's so atrociously ugly that Hoyoung decides that he should go look for a cuter pet instead. As he moves to leave, a bright light shines from Kangasu's body, and it blinds Hoyoung for a moment. As the light clears, it reveals Kangasu, who has transformed into a tiny, adorable creature. It's so cute that Hoyoung can barely hold back his squeal of joy. With that, the time is up and the 7th floor's mission is over. Hoyoung brings Kangasu back to the lobby with him, and everyone stares in shock at the adorable little monster. He reveals to everyone that he somehow got an additional job as a tamer, but his flimsy excuse somehow should be too lame to get away with. However, everyone in the lobby worships him so hard at this point that they all universally agree that Hoyoung deserves another class. Both Kangasu and Hoyoung are confused by just how much these people are praising him, and it almost looks like they worship him at this point. Hoyoung changes the topic and asks them if strengthening their equipment went well. Most of them look down sadly, and it's obvious that it didn't go as well as they hoped. Hoyoung had a feeling this would happen after they started lagging behind him, but not everyone is disappointed by the previous floor. Yongwoo managed to upgrade his adventurer's leather backpack into a high-grade item. That's most likely thanks to the unique grade item that he stole, which had an effect that increased the chance of strengthening a material. Based on the information from the guide, unique items are the highest grade items that can ever be gotten, and thanks to it, it looks like he succeeded in upgrading his backpack 3 times. The kid is smarter than he looks. But now the question is whether Hoyoung succeeded in strengthening his items. To answer that, Hoyoung proudly shows off his sword and armor, which are both now unique grade, meaning that they are the strongest items now. That only makes everyone praise him even more, and this time, he happily accepts it all. However, Seoyeon is salty as she watches all of this happen since she didn't manage to get a single strengthening crystal. These are happy times, and their group seems closer than ever. None of them know just what would end up happening to them in the future. As they continue to praise Hoyoung, the lights go off, plunging the room into darkness. Then, an annoyingly familiar voice breaks through the silence, and he seems pleased that all of them look a lot better since they spent time apart. It's Kumkum, and from how happy the group seems to be, it looks like they had a pretty comfortable time after he left. Because of that, the rabbit has prepared a small event for them all since they must be bored. This time his words feel way too ominous, but Kumkum isn't done yet. He asks them if they had ever wanted an ability that wasn't theirs. Then with a flick of his wrists, Kumkum lights up the area again with bright red flames on the torches. In order to fulfill their need to get new abilities, Kumkum has prepared a special event. Standing in front of them in the former darkness that Kumkum just lit up, there's another group of players that look just as confused as Hoyoung's group. There seems to be something crazy going on as Kumkum laughs maniacally and tells them all to enjoy it to their heart's content. This next mission is an event mission that requires players to kill the players of other areas. Their reward will be that they will gain the ability to randomly obtain a portion of the abilities of the player they kill. Things have definitely been way too quiet and peaceful for too long, but there might still be hope. Hoyoung doesn't know what kind of personalities these people have, but normal people would prefer to avoid a situation where they need to kill each other. If he can convince them to stand down, then maybe they can get out of this with no casualties. Someone else has an entirely different idea, and she points her gun up towards the man that seems to be the leader of their group. In retaliation, the other side draws their weapons too and prepares for a fight to break out. Hoyoung tries to talk to Seoyeon, but her eyes are locked on the man in front of her, and she doesn't even turn to look at Hoyoung. After all this time, and everything they have been through, Hoyoung thought that she would have some humanity left in her, but in the end, he forgot that she's the killer star. The two groups stare each other down, but no one attacks just yet. The leader of the other group, a level 25 player named Choi Gang-do, is the first to speak up and asks them if they want to have an all-out war since they were the first to draw their weapons. In the end, it looks like they will have to kill each other like the tower wants. All the while, and Hoyoung struggles with his decision, Kumkum watches him and holds back his laughter. They will have to do their very best to struggle if they want to survive. Now that introductions are done, and they have gone so swimmingly well, it's time for Kumkum to bring them all to the stage of the mission. With a metallic clank, all the torches go out again, plunging the room into an eerie silence. Hoyoung manages to open his eyes and sees himself in a dark and unwelcoming-looking room. Then he receives a message that informs him that players who receive the message must move to another room within 10 seconds, or they will immediately die. As soon as Hoyoung reads the message, he leaps off the bed and rushes towards the door as the timer starts to tick down from 10. He makes it to another room just in time, right as the timer ticks down to 0. Inside the room he entered, he meets Choi Gang-do once again, and it looks like the man already recognizes Hoyoung as the leader of his group. He even knows his name, and he asks Hoyoung to take a seat so they can chat. The notification that told the players that they would die if they didn't move to another room was a trick played by the tower in order to incite players into clashes with other players. If you enter a room and meet an opponent on the other side, the heightened state of anxiety would cause them to end up fighting each other. However, Choi Gang-do doesn't seem interested in attacking at the moment. The man even apologizes for not being able to offer much except water to Hoyoung. Why is this man so calm? And how did he even single Hoyoung out as the leader despite his low level? Whoever this guy is, he's definitely not an ordinary person. Gang-do clarifies that he has no intention of attacking, and assures Hoyoung that the rest of his group will not fight as long as his team does the same and does not attack them. However, if Hoyoung's group wants a fight, then Gang-do's group will have no choice but to defend themselves, even though they would like to avoid any bloodshed if possible. Ho-young doesn't want to fight either, but he doesn't immediately know if he can trust Gangdu's words. There's been way too much bloodshed so far, and Gangdu claims that he does not want to get caught up in the schemes of the tower and lose more precious teammates in the process. That's very similar to what Ho-young believes, and his memories flash back to his teammates who have done nothing but support him this entire time. Maybe this man is also just a victim of the tower that's desperately trying to protect his teammates. Since both their cards are on the table, Gangdu formally asks Ho-young if the two groups can cooperate to avoid any conflict. Ho-young feels the same way, but even if the two of them agree to work together, there's no guarantee that the rest of his teammates will agree as well. However, Ho-young already knows the answer to that problem, as he can see a skill in the man that can help mediate their current situation. Gangdu reveals that he has a skill called telepathy, which allows him to communicate with the rest of his teammates mentally. If Ho-young agrees that his teammates will not attack them, then Gangdu will use his telepathy to tell his teammates to also not attack. That's a very rare skill, and he revealed it to an opponent that might want that skill. There's no other choice anyways, and if Ho-young wants to end this mission without any sacrifices, then he must conclude the negotiations here no matter what. Ho-young's group is a pacifist group, so as long as Gangdu's group doesn't attack them, then they will never attack first. But there's someone who joined his group halfway. Gangdu immediately figures out that it is the woman who pointed her gun at them in the beginning. Ho-young can't directly control her, but he guarantees that if she causes any trouble, then he will do his best to stop her. Gangdu can see Ho-young's resolve and understands the situation, so he promises to send out the message via telepathy, telling his teammates to not attack unless provoked. With that taken care of, Ho-young leaves the room and heads to another one, but it's empty this time. Now that the negotiations have been taken care of with the opposing side's leader, there's a chance that they can get out of this without any lives lost. For now, he just needs to find Seoyeon and stop her from doing anything dangerous. After clearing the 7th mission, he was given more than 50,000 gold and was able to buy a random skill box from the store window that's been upgraded to level 5. In that box, he got a skill he needed, which gives him a mini-map that allows him to see the players within the mini-map of his location. This place is a small hotel with 5 floors, and fortunately, it looks like everyone is safe for now. After a little bit of searching, he's able to find Sun Seoyeon on the 5th floor, but he also notices something concerning. The dot that was with Kim Seong disappears, meaning that he most likely just killed someone. Another notification pops up, telling Ho-young to move to another room, and he dashes out of his room to look for Seong. He opens the door, and just like he thought, there's a dead player on the floor. Ho-young flies into a blind rage and grabs Seong by the collar, demanding to know why he just killed someone, right after our MC went through all the trouble of finishing negotiations. But Seong has no idea what Ho-young is talking about. The one who suddenly charged at the ogre with murderous intent was the player who he just killed. It was self-defense, but Ho-young doesn't buy it. That's until the guide provides him with information that the Killer Star can see the number of people others have killed. That must be the skill, Killer Star's eyes, that he saw in Seoyeon's list of skills earlier. But why would information like this suddenly appear anyways? That's when Ho-young remembers that Seoyeon's eyes were blood red when she was staring at Gangdu earlier. There's a chance that she saw someone's kill count back then, and it caused her to become hostile as a result. Seong continues to beg Ho-young and promise that he's telling the truth, and Ho-young releases Seong after figuring it out. The person's kill count that he saw was most likely Choi Gangdu. Now this puzzle is starting to make sense. With the answers completely taken care of, he finds himself heading over to meet Gangdu again, and he finds the man resting in one of the hotel rooms while sipping wine that he got from God knows where. He invites Ho-young to come and sit down, but our MC doesn't care about pretenses anymore. He knows exactly what's going on, and he calls Gangdu a murderer straight to his face. The man doesn't even try to deny it and starts laughing, and his true colors come out immediately. He reveals that he wants to kill Ho-young and take whatever ability he may have. This entire time he really was hiding his true colors. This greedy man wants other people's abilities for himself. But why would someone like that ask his teammates to kill others? If he went around doing the killing, then he would be able to get way more abilities. That's because he believes that if his army grows stronger, then he becomes stronger as well. Gangdu throws his wine glass at Ho-young, who easily cuts it with his sword, but then he looks up to see 2 other players about to drop down on him. Gangdu also rushes in with his axe, close enough to land the first hit. Ho-young is all alone, so there's no way he can handle Gangdu and his supports by himself. At least that's what he thought, until a bright red light shines, and something stiff stops the axe from making contact with Ho-young, while he uses his sword to block the other attacks. He's never alone when he has Kangasu with him at all times. Gangdu is confused about who this ugly kangaroo is. Kangasu is offended that someone would call him ugly, but unfortunately even Ho-young cannot deny that his pet isn't easy on the eyes. Even though Gangdu was surprised at first, seeing all of Ho-young's tricks just makes him even more interested in killing him and stealing his abilities. With just the 2 of them though, there's no way that they will be able to take all of them down. But Ho-young is sure that they will have an easy time putting an end to this. His plan is simple. First, they'll take down the underlings who are significantly weaker than Gangsu. Ho-young uses his blade to cut down the first player, but another one rushes in from his blind spot. He's stopped in his tracks by a tail which slows him down. Before he can remove it, Hoyoung kicks him back into a wall, taking him out as well. The last man goes straight for Kangsu with his sharp claws, but he's easily blown away by a heavy punch to his face, sending him flying backwards and knocking him out entirely. Now it's gone from 4 against 2 to 1 against 2, and the army that Gangdu was so proud of has fallen. He doesn't want to believe that his army was defeated so easily, but Hoyoung made a fatal error by not killing them. Because of his soft-heartedness, the men are able to get back up and attack the two of them with newfound strength. As the two of them are attacked, Gangdu tells them that there is no way they can survive in the tower when they are too weak-willed to kill anyone. Hoyoung and Kanagasu manage to recover and fight back, but they are quickly pushed back by the relentless attacks. Hoyoung can't figure out why the people who were just beaten to an inch of their lives are suddenly so energetic. It doesn't make any sense. He didn't see any healing skills on any of them. However, one look at their HP bar shows that they weren't healed. It looks like Gangdu burned his companion's life force to awaken them, and that's why they have this newfound vigor. In this state, all their stats are doubled, which is why they are managing to push the two back so easily now. It's overwhelmingly powerful, but if this goes on, then they will die once all their life force is used up. Gangdu is someone who treats companions as expendables, and he dared to deceive Hoyoung with his sugar-coated words earlier. The murderous look Hoyoung gives the commander makes him want to take action. The man's life is the most important thing to him, so he has no qualms sacrificing others to prolong his own. Even Hoyoung didn't get this far without blood on his hands, so Gangdu believes that our MC should have some understanding of what's happening. Hoyoung agrees with him. After all, he isn't a saint or a hero, but if there's a way to save even one life, then Hoyoung will continue to take that path, because he believes that's what a human being would do. Hoyoung doesn't want to kill these people, but if he doesn't, then his teammates' lives will be in danger. So for now, he will need to harden his heart and do what needs to be done. He activates his impeccable senses as the three men rush at him from all sides. Thanks to it, he's able to dodge all their attacks and deliver fatal strikes to each of them. Then he rushes in and cuts down Gangdu through his chest, also landing a fatal strike and bringing him to his knees. Gangdu can't believe he met a monster like Hoyoung when this isn't even an official mission. In his last moments, he remembers Hoyoung's words about teammates. To him, the people he fought with were just chess pieces that he could use and discard at any time. Maybe he was wrong about that after all if this is how he ended up. And with that, Hoyoung comes out victorious from that battle. He also receives a partial portion of his opponent's abilities randomly as a reward. After that, the majority of the players from the other sector have been cleared out, which ends the mission in their victory. They all return to the lobby, and Junho immediately checks if everyone managed to make it back alive. It was a close call for most of them, but they all managed to make it back alive despite being backstabbed and ambushed. Hoyoung notices Seoyeon in the corner sitting by herself and walks up to her. He nervously apologizes for misunderstanding her, but she doesn't care about his apology. She never wanted to work with them anyways, so she didn't do it for them. Hoyoung starts teasing her to be more honest, but once she pulls out her gun, he gets the message and backs off. But now that he's getting to know her more, he wonders why exactly she became a killer star in the first place. She doesn't seem to be evil by nature, so there's no reason for her to become a killer. Maybe she has her own situation that he may never know about. The speaker rings again and announces the end of the event mission. With that done, the 8th floor mission is set to start soon, and things are about to get heated. Hoyoung predicts that the greatest challenge they have faced so far will be waiting for them on the next floor. The stats that he had trouble increasing have gotten a small boost from his fight, and he also absorbed a portion of his opponent's abilities, which increased his agility by 5 and his strength by 3. A fight that relies on having more stats can be reversed anytime, and if he were powerless, then all the words he spoke to Gangdu before cutting him down would mean nothing. So he has to hone his skills and get stronger so he can fight any challenge. With his resolve renewed, he entered into the 8 mission stage to start his next chapter. Hoyoung seems to have been transported to the floor with only Junho as well as a bunch of other people that he doesn't recognize. From what they can tell, the main thing they all have in common is that they all share the gladiator class, and Hoyoung can also tell that a couple of them seem pretty strong. In front of them, a screen suddenly opens up and all the players prepare for a fight. But instead of some sort of monster coming through, a familiar rabbit silhouette is seen instead. But Hoyoung can immediately tell that this isn't Kumkum. This new person introduces himself as the Tower of the End's middle administrator, Kim. A few in the crowd wonder who the hack gave these genocidal rabbits their names. But there's more important things to worry about right now. The first thing Kim tells them is that he detests people ignoring the things he says, so they should all listen to him attentively. He explains that this place is called the Field of Requalification, where gladiators of this region will have to successfully meet the qualifications as gladiators through missions. Only if they meet these qualifications will they be allowed to go to the next floor. If they don't meet the qualifications, the only other option for them is death. Now that the rules are clear, it's time for the level 1 mission to commence. The mission will require them to form a party of 4 to hunt down a creature called the Purple Mammoth. There are a total of 8 purple mammoths in the area, and they only have 2 hours to find one and kill it. If not, they die. Whatever this monster is, it must be really strong if it needs 4 people to kill it. Immediately, the other players start to gather around and try to form teams with each other. Hoyoung does some counting and sees 36 people with him in this area. If the parties of 4 are made, then there will only be 9 parties, which means that there are not enough mammoths for everyone to get a kill. It looks like the plan is to eliminate a group of people at this stage. One of the players decides to ask Kim if they really plan to just get rid of a group of 4 players right out of the gate. But the rabbit doesn't enjoy being asked obvious questions. His menacing stare is enough to silence the crowd, and no one has any further questions. But since this is just level 1, he decides to be generous and add another clear condition to the challenge. If a party kills another player, it will be recognized as having slain a purple mammoth. This is the same thing that the tower usually pulls, and it's clear that they want them to fight amongst each other as usual. Now with that ominous new rule, a portal opens up for them to go in and start the mission. People are still trying to form parties as they make their way towards the portal. But someone stands in front of it and stops the rest. As the mysterious man stares at the crowd, he asks whether anyone there is a killer star. Hoyoung freezes in shock and can immediately tell where this is going. From his guide view, he can tell that this man, named Han Kang-yuk, is a killer star. But why would a killer star be looking for other killer stars? The rest of the players have never heard of that before, and they push past the man on their way to the portal, not intending to get into useless small talk when so much is at stake. Since all of them have left, he assumes that there's no killer star in the area despite the number of people that were gathered here. With nothing left to do, he requests to join the only team that didn't immediately rush into the portal. That's Hoyoung's team with him, Junho and another girl. As the 4 of them run into the portal and appear in a new area, the girl takes a moment to admire the team that she has found herself in. It's completely filled with handsome men that are all her type. In the end, Hoyoung formed a party of 4 just like the tower wanted, but he didn't expect to end up with a killer star. This is ultimately better for him though, since he can find out what the man is up to after they are done with the mission. As they continue running, the guide pops up with a useful piece of information. It informs them that there is a hidden piece northeast of their current location where a purple mammoth boss has been trapped within a barrier. Hoyoung immediately activates his minimap, and it gives him an overview of the area and the situation. The red dots on the map are normal purple mammoths, but the golden one at the top must be the hidden piece. If they head over and kill that one, then there's no need to kill anyone else. With a new goal in mind, he pushes forward, leading the group towards the hidden piece. They eventually make it to the area, and despite Kang-hyuk's doubt, there is actually a boss monster hidden away where Hoyoung led them to. Kang-hyuk didn't want to trust the words of a low-level player, but this is proof enough that Hoyoung can't be judged by his level alone. Junho knows that fact way too well, but he goes a bit too deep into the details of just how much he admires his leader. But his words pique the interest of the killer star among them, and he takes an uncomfortably close look at Hoyoung. From the red eye, he's probably using his killer star's eye ability to size Hoyoung up. Our MC is used to observing others with his abilities, but this is the first time he has felt what it's like to be watched. But even though they have found the hidden piece, they still need to break the barrier if they want to kill the boss. Junho's attacks don't even leave a scratch, and there's no way under or around it. However, the guide informs Hoyoung that the barrier will automatically open once 5 purple mammoths have been slain. 4 have been killed so far, so they will soon be able to fight the boss and get out of there. However, Hoyoung's excitement is short-lived as he feels a menacing aura coming from behind him. He turns just in time to see the girl's head flying off as the killer star's sword cuts through her throat in one quick motion. Hoyoung can barely contain his rage as he demands to know what Kang-hyuk thinks he is doing. The man claims that he's just making sure they can survive since there is no guarantee that the barrier will open up in the end. That reason doesn't make sense, and this man basically just killed someone for no reason. Hoyoung can't hear what they're saying though as the two continue to argue, and his mind is filled with blind rage. He was too complacent and didn't put enough attention on the killer star, which is why he didn't realize that Kang-hyuk could do something so unexpected. He was too excited over discovering the hidden piece that he let his guard down. But the crazy man isn't done yet. Now that he has killed one person, he reasons that the best thing to do is to kill them all and get the whole reward for himself. Junho wastes no time going on the offense, determined not to let Kang-hyuk do whatever he wants, but Hoyoung is much faster on the uptake, and his sword clashes with the killer star's first. He doesn't want to sit back and watch Junho get beaten by a madman who is obviously way stronger than him. However, the killer star still gets a shot in, firing a blast that knocks Junho back and breaks his sword in the process. With his friend also taken down, things are looking grim for Hoyoung. He has gotten so many bonuses so far, and thanks to them, he thought he was pretty strong. But even now, he's not strong enough to protect even one teammate. His mind flashes back to a similar incident in his past, and he wonders just what on earth has changed in his life since then. Kang-hyuk mistakes Hoyoung freezing up as a sign of fear and walks over to finish the job. But once he gets close enough, he sees that it's not fear, but anger that has frozen Hoyoung up. At the same time, the barrier around the mammoth drops, and it wastes no time as it starts to attack them. The two men dodge out of the way of the deadly attack, with Hoyoung being fast enough to also pull Junho out of harm's way. Then he rests his teammate against a tree and checks his vitals. Luckily, Junho is still breathing, despite the damage that he took. Thankfully, it looks like he managed to avoid his vital points being struck, but that doesn't mean that they are out of danger just yet. He turns back to look at the killer star, and after watching him fight up close, Ho-young can tell for sure that this guy is way stronger than him, and he's made even stronger by the killer star exclusive skill that he has. It's called Aura Blade, and it's what he used to attack Junho despite the fact that Ho-young parried the sword. The aura moves separately from the direction of the sword, so it's hard to predict the direction of his attacks. Ho-young would like to kill him right now, but he would definitely lose if he tried. There's only 15 minutes left to finish the fight, but Ho-young has to focus on the mission before anything else. He decides to hunt the mammoth boss first, then figure out the killer star's movement patterns from that. With the two of them fighting together, they successfully kill the purple mammoth boss and earn the reward for clearing a hidden piece. Kang-hyuk could also tell from the fight that Ho-young is stronger than he seems. Although he couldn't find another killer star, it looks like he has found someone else that's pretty interesting. Now that he has gotten the hidden piece's reward, he will postpone killing Ho-young. Before he can step away though, Ho-young asks him why he's looking for the killer star. That shocks Kang-hyuk, and he looks pleasantly surprised that Ho-young knows about killer stars. The rest of the players return to the lobby now that the first level mission is over. Junho is healed completely now that they have returned to their temporary lobby, but he's still upset that they all didn't survive thanks to Kang-hyuk's violent action. Ho-young remembers the conversation he had with Kang-hyuk before they returned to the lobby. He revealed that he knows about killer stars, and also that he knows Kang-hyuk is a killer star. That causes the man to laugh out in joy. He was right in thinking that Ho-young is more interesting than he seems. Now the bigger question is what exactly our MC wants now that this information has come to light. Ho-young agrees to reveal all the information he knows about killer stars. In exchange, Ho-young has a question he wants to ask. Kang-hyuk agrees to the terms, but only if he likes what he hears. With the deal made, Ho-young reveals that there is a killer star in his region, and that person is really special. They also have a killer star exclusive weapon, a gun. That person is known as the King of Killer Stars. That interests Kang-hyuk, who didn't know that the title of King of Killer Stars even existed. While Ho-young doesn't know if the King of Killer Stars actually exists, he needs something huge like this that will pique his interest so that he can get what he wants. And from the excitement in the way he starts asking more questions, it seems like he has bit the bait. Before he can go on to answer more questions though, Kang-hyuk has to answer some questions of his own. Firstly, Ho-young wants to know the reason why Kang-hyuk is going around looking for other killer stars, and what his objective is for doing that. Although the man was crazy enough to place a sword to Ho-young's neck, he still provided the information that our MC needed. From what Kang-hyuk said, the traits of all killer stars will be unlocked on the Day of Blood, when a field of blood will open. Kang-hyuk got information regarding things that could make the Day of Blood happen earlier, but in order to do so, he will need the assistance of other killer stars. Since he became Sun Seoyeon's main target, Ho-young has been constantly worried about the Day of Blood. On that day, if Seoyeon kills him, she will get a very good reward out of it. If this is Kang-hyuk's objective, then this might also be what Seoyeon is thinking. At this point, it's difficult to tell which personality of hers is the real Sun Seoyeon. But that aside, right now, he has to figure out Han Kang-hyuk's objective. He can't be left alone to do whatever he wants, so Ho-young has to make sure to kill him on the next floor no matter what. Even if it means that he has to use everything, he has to do it. Another screen appears over the area and Kim shows up on it, but he's in an even worse mood than before. He's particularly upset that someone found the hidden piece. He demands to know who it was, but nobody confesses to it. Since things have come down to this, Kim is going to have to accept volunteers on a first-come, first-serve basis. Because someone discovered the hidden piece that he went through so much trouble to conceal, too many players ended up surviving. There should have been at least 4 people dead. But because someone found the hidden piece, there are more survivors than expected. From that logic, one of the players is able to figure out that a certain number of players must die in each mission. That also means that at least 4 people must die for the second mission to start. Kum could easily kill people randomly, but that'd be way too boring. So instead, he wants the players to kill each other, and for people to choose their targets before continuing. The player who successfully kills their target will get a special reward at the end of it all. Kim clearly intends to reduce the number of players no matter what. There was no point in him getting the hidden piece after all. One of the players doesn't like the rules though, and decides to speak up. He tells Kum that no one forced him to put the hidden piece there, and the rabbit just wants to see them slashing each other. The player's friend tries to warn him that he shouldn't be talking to the administrator with such a disrespectful tone. But the man isn't bothered since Kim has been hiding behind a screen the entire time. There's nothing to be worried about when the rabbit won't even show up for real in front of them. All Kum did back in the lower floors was threaten them, and he has never hurt them before. That unfortunately means that they have never provoked Kum before. The player has never gotten a taste of the rabbit's anger. And Kim is a worse beast since even the guide warns that players must never get on Kim's bad side. If the guy keeps provoking the rabbit, there's no telling what will happen. As he continues talking though, a bright laser cuts past him, tearing his arm clean off his shoulder before he even knows it's gone. The player screams as blood starts to gush out of the open wound, and he falls on the ground in agony. Back up at the screen, Kim stares down at them in anger, with his hand poking out of the screen. Of course, just because he has been on a screen this whole time doesn't mean that he's in a space cut off from them. With that, he peeks his head out of the screen, proving to them that he can come down and throw some common sense into their heads whenever he feels like it. With the message passed clearly across to them, he returns to the earlier question. He wants people to volunteer to kill each other. Else, he will have to do the killing himself. Ho-young takes a moment to think and decides that if someone is going to do it, it has to be him. He raises his hand to volunteer himself at the same time that Kang-yuk does the same. This is the perfect opportunity for Ho-young to kill the guy without any consequences. Since they both volunteered to fight each other, a special mission begins as they are teleported to a separate room. Now that Ho-young has decided to kill, he will do anything he can to make sure that he takes this guy out. Kang-hyuk is not as invested though, since he had no intentions of killing Ho-young just yet. However, the real question is whether Ho-young will be alright in this fight since his skills are no match for a killer star. However, Ho-young advises him to stop judging his opponents based on how many people they have killed. That makes Kang-hyuk genuinely interested, since that means that Ho-young even knows about the killer star's eyes. Ho-young continues, telling Kang-hyuk that there are plenty of ways to get stronger in the tower other than killing. The true clash swords, and although Ho-young has been talking big this entire time, it is objectively true that the killer star is much stronger than him. Now that the two of them have crossed swords in a one-on-one battle, Ho-young is even more certain of that. His sword strikes are overwhelmingly powerful, and despite the fact that he's using the Indomitable Sword, which is a unique grade sword, he can only block the killer star's overwhelming attacks. This is a killer star's true strength after all. After more series of traded blows, Ho-young is completely pushed into a corner, and Kang-hyuk is beyond unsatisfied from their fight. He had high expectations of this being more entertaining, but Ho-young fell way too easily. It looks like Ho-young is not strong enough to do this on his own, but thankfully, he's never alone. At that moment, a massive boxing glove crashes into Kang-hyuk's stomach, knocking the wind out of him immediately. He's sent flying backwards in an instant, but manages to catch himself with his sword. Kang-soo isn't done though, and goes in to continue the attack, throwing punches that Kang-hyuk can just barely dodge. However, Ho-young isn't just going to sit back and watch, and he comes in from behind with a swing to the man's head, but Kang-hyuk manages to dodge that as well before it can hit, then backs away from the killer duo before any more attacks can come his way. Despite perfectly dodging almost everything, it looks like he still managed to get a cut on his cheek. Now it's 2 against 1, and Kang-hyuk has to start taking this fight seriously, but he's still confident that he can cut both of them down. The man pushes off from his standing position and runs straight at them, bringing his sword over his head to land a powerful hit on both of them. Ho-young and Kang-soo dodge to either side, avoiding the massive attack and preparing to come around for a counterattack. While hunting the purple mammoth boss, Ho-young managed to find the sole weakness of Han Kang-hyuk. While his aura blade is powerful, it also consumes a lot of mana. Since he has just taken a blow from Kang-soo, Kang-hyuk is completely furious, and he's recklessly using his skill at full power, causing his mana to drop drastically. However, even though they just have to survive for now, it's still incredibly hard to predict the man's attacks, but Ho-young has his impeccable senses activated, so he can react to them accordingly. If he can stay alive until Han Kang-hyuk's mana is completely depleted, then he can save his skill for that last moment and win this fight with Kang-soo. That should have been the case anyways, but somehow, this is not going in the way he wanted at all. As Kang-hyuk continued swinging his blade like a madman, Ho-young and Kang-soo can't find good opportunities to land a decisive blow. While his attention is split between the two of them, they still have barely been able to defend against his attacks. But now that his mana has dropped drastically, it's nearly time to finish this once and for all. Eventually, his mana falls to a critical level, and the aura around his blade dulls out. That's the moment Kang-soo and Ho-young rush in to finish it off once and for all. The two charge up their most powerful attacks and prepare to launch it at Kang-hyuk, but they fail to take notice of each other, and their hands clash together for a moment. That is just long enough for Kang-hyuk to launch his aura blade one more time and bring it down on the two of them. However, in a last-ditch effort to save Ho-young, Kang-soo put himself in full blast of the aura blade to defend Ho-young from danger. With that, Kang-soo despawns, leaving nothing behind but his severed hand. With that, Ho-young is completely out of tricks, and Kang-hyuk comes up to land the finishing blow. Even he has to admit that Ho-young is pretty strong, and it seems like he was right about there being many ways to get stronger besides killing people. But in the end, Ho-young ended up kneeling in front of the killer star because he relied on his pet to turn the tides. However, Ho-young is not done fighting just yet, and he doesn't like the fact that Kang-hyuk would call Kang-soo a mere pet. Kang-hyuk doesn't give him time to throw out any cliches though, and he informs Ho-young that the more people a human is connected to, the weaker they are going to get. Despite all of Kang-hyuk's taunts though, that doesn't change the fact that Ho-young has no plans of backing down. He believes that the path of killing Kang-hyuk is walking down will lead to nothing but loneliness at the end of the day. The killer star is tired of hearing Ho-young's words, and their swords clash again as he prepares to kill Ho-young once and for all. The two continue to fight against each other, and Kang-hyuk mocks Ho-young for holding on to whatever humanity he has left despite the fact that the work has come to an end. His attacks become more and more aggressive, but Hoyoung barely manages to hang on, dodging a wide attack from Kang Hyuk as he mocks Hoyoung for relying on a mere pet. But the truth is, without Kangasu, Hoyoung would have definitely already died, and because Kangasu was here, the Killer Star's mana is now completely depleted. Now it's Hoyoung's turn to fight with aggressive force. In that moment, his level 1 intermediate swordsmanship increases to level 2, and he's able to unlock a new ability with it called Stab Discharge, which he uses on Kang Hyuk as the man comes down towards him, unable to stop himself. His sword releases a bright light, and by the time Kang Hyuk can figure out what's happening, it's already too late to save himself. Somehow, his intermediate swordsmanship leveled up at the last moment, and he was lucky enough to get a new skill out of it. But it consumes nearly all his mana in one go, so it isn't going to be very effective except as a secret weapon. However, its power and destructiveness are nothing to sneeze at either. Thanks to it, he successfully defeated a Killer Star, although he lost Kangasu along the way, but at least he was able to win. A notification pops up and tells him that a dead summoned monster can be resummoned again in 24 hours, which means that revival is possible. A voice comes up behind him, and he turns to see Kim looking impressed with the performance. He likes humans who listen to what he has to say, and congratulates Hoyoung on his victory. However, he can't get too excited yet, since now that a Killer Star is dead, the mission will become much more difficult from now on. Killer Stars aren't just strong people who happen to receive special benefits from the tower. They are also related to a part of the difficulty within the tower, and since a Killer Star is now dead, the tower's missions will become even harsher. That means that the more Killer Stars that die off, the harder it will be to climb the tower. But if they aren't killed, then the Day of Blood's tragedy will happen soon. However, since Hoyoung has successfully won the player kill event, it's time for the second mission, along with the special reward that was promised. Hoyoung is transported to a large white room with nothing but a large hourglass in the center. There's also an old man sleeping in the middle, and it looks like this guy is related to his reward in some way. His mission is to train in the dimension of mind and time, and accomplish certain growth. His time limit is before all the sand in the hourglass falls, and if he fails, then he will die. The mission details are way too vague, but it's a relief that this mission isn't against other players. Things are still way too confusing though, and he's not sure where to go from here. Kim told him that he originally was supposed to get a random skill box, but since he completed a high difficulty challenge by killing a Killer Star, then he will instead get a special reward. Now the question is, if this old man who has been napping since he arrived is supposed to be the special reward. The man wakes up with a loud yawn, and Hoyoung starts to wonder if a random skill box would have been better than this. The man dusts himself off and introduces himself as the person who will become Hoyoung's master. He is a strong person known as the Heavenly Demon. The Heavenly Demon is usually a martial arts master that appears in those cheesy webtoons, and he looks completely different from this old man in every way. As if the old man could read Hoyoung's thoughts, he gives him a slap on the head with a small stick, while his head shines bright in irony. But Hoyoung realizes that although he was able to read the stick before it hit him, he couldn't react to it at all. The Heavenly Demon tells him that he's as weak as trash, but he will swing the stick again so Hoyoung can take a good look and try to block it. Hoyoung let the attack hit him because he wasn't expecting it, but he won't let his guard down a second time. He prepares his sword and activates his impeccable senses, but once again, the stick comes slamming down on his head with no resistance. The Heavenly Demon at least notices that Hoyoung knows how to use energy detection, but it's useless if his body can't catch up. That's a surprising thing for the master to say when Hoyoung's agility is already at its limits. But the man isn't just talking about being fast or slow. Now that he has shown his strength, he invites Hoyoung to try and attack him with his strongest technique. Hoyoung agrees and decides to completely ignore the fact that he's an old man. This man is a monster whose stats even Hoyoung can't see. Everything in his stat menu that Hoyoung can see with his sage's eye is completely hidden, which means that this man is much stronger than he looks. If he is meant to use his strongest technique, then there's only one skill he can use right now, but he will show the man if that's what he wants to see. Hoyoung activates his level 2 sword technique, Stab Discharge. The large energy blast that killed a Killer Star comes out of his sword again, but the master simply raises his stick and completely slices the attack in half, nullifying it. The attack is strong enough, though, that the Heavenly Demon promotes him to a piece of trash that has substance. But no matter what kind of sorcery he has in his sword, his attack isn't a true sword technique. In order for him to learn the skills of the Heavenly Demon, then he will need to get rid of his current skills completely. Hoyoung is reluctant since his sword technique skill is a basic skill of the tower, and getting rid of it means getting rid of what has allowed him to survive this far. But for this round, he will die if he doesn't achieve certain growth within the time limit. Time is running out even at this very moment, but he wants Hoyoung to start from scratch. Hoyoung went through so much to get to intermediate swordsmanship, and now he's supposed to just let it all go. The man tells him that the smaller his vessel, the more he will think that all he has is everything. In other words, although he feels like it's a waste to throw it all away, the Heavenly Demon does not intend to accept someone as his disciple against their will. So he has to make his decision to forever cling to his small skill set, or choose to be reborn with the teachings of a master. There are countless people who would have thrown their lives away just to get in a line to learn a fraction of the heavenly demon's teachings. Ho-young doesn't even realize how large of an opportunity this is for him. Ho-young thinks about it a little more and realizes that the man is right. He has felt it multiple times that there is a limit to his strength when he relies on just skills or stats to fight. Now that he puts more thought into it, he puts his staff in the ground and gets on his knees, ready to be taught by this man who has promised to make him born again. Time passes as he begins his training with his new master, and even though his swordsmanship skill was removed, he was somehow able to recover all the progress he made previously. In fact, now he has become even stronger, and he is even able to kill copies of his past self. It only took 3 days, but he has already surpassed his past self before even half of the hourglass's sand passed through. The heavenly demon who has been watching his growth acknowledges that Ho-young is indeed stronger than his past self now, but he's still a piece of trash. However, even the old man thinks that Ho-young is more promising than he expected, and he might even have the potential to surpass the disciples of the heavenly demon cult. Now that Ho-young has gotten this strong, it's time for them to officially enter the master-disciple relationship. He tells Ho-young to pay the appropriate respects while he performs the ritual of 9 bows. Ho-young is surprised that they weren't already in a master-disciple relationship, but the old man has only taught him the basics so far. Now that they have entered a formal relationship, it's time for Ho-young to learn an exclusive sword technique of the divine cult, which the heavenly demon has modified and perfected. It is the strongest sword technique in the world, known as the shadowless soul-hunting sword technique. In the heavenly dragon's world or Murim, people have called him the strongest in the world. He unified the heavenly demonic divine cult's 7 branches at the age of 28, and ascended to the position of heavenly demon. They said that the strongest heavenly demon had been born. After obsessing over the sword for all his life, he was able to achieve body-sword unification and ascended as a deity. But then suddenly, he found himself in the tower and realized that his journey was not over yet. However, just because he's obligated to perform a certain role in the tower, it does not mean that he is trapped within it. He can return to where he used to live at any time. From what he's saying though, that means that he would be just like an NPC of this world, especially since he doesn't seem to be a player. The master can't tell him any more details about his pact with the tower, but Ho-young will still be taught a great sword technique by the heavenly demon himself. Ho-young bows his head and leaves himself in the care of the heavenly demon. The old man expected a better reaction than just a simple bow since he's going to be learning something as powerful as the shadowless soul-hunting sword technique. If he did this for any disciple of the divine cult, they would have crewed for 3 whole days from gratitude. But Ho-young has never heard of the sword technique before, so he can't be too excited about it. Whatever the case, he doesn't have any time to cry, because if he wants to learn the sword technique in time, then he cannot spare even a moment not learning it. The old man sighs and moves on to the next part, telling him that from now on, he should train with the resolve of someone putting their life on the line. While it's true that his swordsmanship skill was removed from his status window, he was following the footprints that he had walked before, and it wasn't too difficult for him to return to the same level as he was before. But the shadowless soul-hunting sword technique is a technique filled with inconsistencies. It's fast but slow, strong but gentle, and is just way too difficult. There's no way he's going to be able to do this properly or figure it out in time. This sword technique is the strongest in the world that the master spent his whole life trying to perfect. It's obvious that learning something as difficult as that wouldn't be easy, but Ho-young continues to try his best. However, since he began learning it, it feels like his sword skills have been deteriorating. The old man ponders on his disciple's words for a moment, then he gets down from his branch and asks Ho-young to fight him. Ho-young could barely defeat his doppelganger when he was in good shape, and now the master wants him to fight? If Ho-young doesn't strike first, the heavenly demon will come at him, and that is way worse in comparison. So Ho-young steadies his sword and prepares to attack. Even right now, the hourglass is trickling down, so there is no time to overthink this. He rushes towards his master and unleashes a series of sword strikes, but each one is skillfully dodged in an instant. The man moves almost like a ghost, and Ho-young can't seem to land any hits on him. Then the master comes down with his stick, which Ho-young is able to read, and he puts his sword up to block it, but even though he clearly saw it coming down to him, the stick still manages to hit him on the head. It happened again, and somehow the man's attacks always hit even when he can clearly see through the move. So far, Ho-young's senses have been able to carry him through almost any obstacle, and he has been able to use them in all his fights. But now the master points out that his foresight can be easily deceived. As he lectures Ho-young, he continues attacking with his stick, and our MC is not able to block or dodge any of them. There's only a quarter of sand left in the top of the hourglass, and at this point, Ho-young is nothing but confused. Is learning this difficult sword technique really the right thing to do in this situation? If he runs out of time at this rate, then he will have to face the tower's death penalty. Sensing his uneasiness, the master tells him to throw away his anxiousness and throw away everything he has relied on so far in order to feel the end. According to the master, whether something has substance or not, they always have an end. And if he can feel that end, then he will be able to cut through anything. The shadowless soul-hunting sword technique bears no shadow, and its purpose is mentioned in its name. It exists to cut even an existence without substance. It's fast but slow, gentle but strong. But now, with his master's teachings, he might just be able to figure it out. The old man rushes at him again, and Hoyong replies in kind, swinging his sword back at the old man, but this time, he's able to cut the branch in half with his sword. The old man looks behind him in pride as Hoyong stares at the purple aura surrounding his sword. This is the shadowless soul-hunting sword technique. It looks like Hoyong has turned into a pretty useful piece of trash. However, as impressive as it is, what Hoyong has obtained is just a fragment of realization. Even with just that, he's now able to understand the old man's teachings, even if it's just a little. The old man drew his sword trajectory in order for Hoyong to be able to feel the end as easily as possible. Not everyone is capable of detecting it. Before it's time for them to depart, the master gives him one last bit of wisdom. He tells Hoyong that the principle of the shadowless soul-hunting sword technique isn't to fill, but to empty. After countless instances of discarding things he relies on, that's the moment that he will arrive at a singularity and fully master the sword technique. Hoyong remembers that he had been enticed with the immediate benefits and had chosen to get more skills of quantity and quality. If he had stuck to that mindset, then he definitely wouldn't have been able to obtain the sword technique. It's like how no matter how fancy one's hair is, the one that shines brightest is a bald one. The master doesn't like that analogy, but it still holds true regardless. Finally, the hourglass is at its end, and Hoyong bows down in front of his master to show thanks for his teachings. With this guidance, he will be able to climb to the end of this tower. The master gives him one last gift, a new set of clothes that will fit a disciple of the heavenly demon. As he continues climbing the tower, the two of them are likely to meet again. After that last conversation, Hoyong is teleported out, and he is graded to have officially cleared the mission. However, instead of returning to the gladiator's lobby, he's taken to somewhere a lot more menacing. Behind him is Kim, and it looks like he has been summoned to the rabbit's personal space. Kim has something to propose now that Hoyong has shown his worth. After killing Han Kang-yuk, a new killer star slot has now opened. Kim wants Hoyong to take that spot for himself.